Good afternoon. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network as we celebrate the life and the legacy of our dear friend Charlie Kirk, who will be posthumously awarded the Medal of Freedom today by the President of the United States. Such a high honor on this Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, which would have been his 32nd birthday. A very fitting time to celebrate a man, a life, and a legacy of an American original that can truly not be replicated, but the ripple effect of his life being heard far and loud, with a revival happening across this country, in churches to the halls of our public squares, people coming together to celebrate Charlie and all he stood for. And I actually got a kick out of Turning Point USA releasing his top 31 spots. We actually have to top it or toss it over now to President Trump.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to have the leader of Argentina, a place that I love, I've been to, and one of the most beautiful places in the world, President. And I really want to thank you very much. He's MAGA all the way. It's Make Argentina Great Again. I heard about him when he was campaigning, and even before his campaign. He's a great economist, and he was saying a lot of very correct things, and he was very much in a conservative mode. And I heard all about you as you were running and even before you were running, because as a tremendously talented economist, you were getting a lot of good write-ups, and I appreciated that. But he was Make Argentina Great Again. It worked. I actually sent him some hats for his early part of the campaign, and then he called me. He wanted a lot more. And I said, when does it stop? When will it stop? And it stopped with him winning. And he's become very popular, and he's on the verge of a breakthrough, I think. I think he's really on the verge of tremendous economic success, and I know that Scott Bessent is helping, and our great Scott is doing the job, and he feels very strongly about it. And Scott, do you want to say just a couple of words about that, please?
Yes, sir. The president is fighting 100 years of bad economic history and policy, and is
both presidents.
Both.
We're fighting bad. I thought he was talking about the U.S. president when he said.
And there's a midterm election coming up. We think he's going to do quite well, and then continue his reform agenda. Mr. President, as you said, President Obama had a big opportunity during his term, which he wasted. Many governments in Latin America went center-right, and the U.S. ignored them. We are not going to ignore our allies. It is economic strength. We're using our economic strength to create peace, just as you've done all over the world. And it is much better to form an economic bridge with our allies, people who want to do the right thing, than have to have shoot at narco gunboats. So we think that this is an opportunity for the Argentinian people, and that President Milei is the one to do it. He's got a great cabinet. He's got a great team who we've worked with over the past weeks.
And the election is coming up very soon, and it's a very big election being watched by the world, because he's done an incredible job. But with that comes some pain. And they have some pain, and now they're coming out of it. I think the victory is very important. Your poll numbers, I hear, are pretty good, but I think they'll be better after this. And, you know, our approvals are somewhat subject to who wins the election, because if a socialist, or in the case of New York City, a communist wins, you feel a lot differently about making an investment. I think, Scott, you'd feel that if somebody that had no chance, in other words, if somebody wins and has no chance of ever having a great economy because of that philosophy, you would put a halt to what we're doing.
Yes, sir, and we're confident that President Milei is going to do well. We've been criticized by a couple of American Peronists, like Senator Warren. And she and
That's a compliment. She has no idea what she's doing. She's a nasty, horrible senator. Go ahead. Other than that, I like her very much.
Yeah, and she and her protege in New York, Mandani, who I don't even think he's a Peronist. I think he's more the communist Chauvinismo. So we stand with the president and what he stands for and the hope for the Argentinian people. And President Trump, just like you, he carries the young people. So it's hope for the future. The Argentines have made the decision to shake off 100 years of bad policy. They went from one of the richest countries in the world to a ton of debt. And I think that with the bridge the U.S. is giving them and the strong policies, that Argentina can be great again.
Thank you very much. Please, go ahead, please.
Muchísimas gracias por esta recepción. Me siento muy honrado, muy especialmente en este momento en el que, digamos, gracias al gran liderazgo suyo, presidente Trump ha logrado la paz en Medio Oriente. No solo este gran logro que ha sido alcanzar la paz en Medio Oriente, sino lograr el retorno de los 20 rehenes vivos. Además, quiero también felicitar por esa labor y por entender, digamos, la amenaza que es el socialismo del siglo XXI en todo el mundo, y en especial en América Latina, la labor de Marco Rubio. Y también quiero agradecer profundamente el enorme trabajo que ha hecho el secretario Besen, digamos, para ayudar a superar este problema de iliquidez que tenía Argentina como consecuencia, digamos, de los ataques políticos que hemos sufrido por nuestros opositores que no quieren que Argentina vuelva a abrazar las ideas de la libertad y que quieran volver a abrazar ideas perimidas, fracasadas, que en el fondo no son ni más ni menos que caminos que conducen al socialismo. Así es que, en primer lugar, muchas gracias por recibirme, muchas gracias por lo que están haciendo por el mundo libre y muchas gracias al secretario Besen por la enorme tarea que ha llevado a cabo y que, digamos, nos permite tener una ruta para poder transitar tranquilos y hacer lo que los argentinos de bien necesitan, y que creo que va a ser un buen caso para mostrar al mundo que las ideas de la libertad funcionan y generan prosperidad. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have a interpreter that wants to, you all either have that, has everyone understood? Because I think you made a very important, profound statement, actually. But we could have it interpreted if you want. Does anybody want it interpreted? Would you like that? Would you like it? Can the interpreter speak what, do we have somebody set up for that? You want?
It's actually simultaneous, so if the President would like to repeat his statement, we can do it.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll leave it that way. So it's an honor to have you here. And I just want to tell you that your career has been an amazing one, and it's going to continue with the election. You're going to win the election. We're going to endorse you. I'm going to endorse you today, fully endorse you. And, people in Argentina like me. A lot of people like me. I'm even surprised myself. But we had a great week. We had a great weekend. We had a great period of time in the Middle East. It was very comprehensive. It went very rapidly, and I think it's going to lead to something that's going to be unrecognizable, certainly for the Middle East. What's taken place in the last few days, people can't believe it. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen the love and the spirit. And I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of deals. I've done a lot of political deals where countries come into line or whatever. But I've never seen anything like this, the level of love. And it has to do with the mystique of the Middle East, I think, because if I did other countries, I did 7 other settlements of wars, complete settlements of wars, and it was very well received. But this is something I've never seen anything like it. The media covered it very fairly, and even the fake news, of which we have a lot, they actually covered it fairly for a change. And I appreciated that. We have to get back to that. It's so important. But I just want to say it's a pleasure to be with you, and we're going to have lunch, and we'll take a couple of questions from the news, and I'm sure they'll be extremely non-hostile and friendly. Like JD went through a very friendly interview with George Slopadopoulos, who was nice enough to pay me $16 million the last time we came. He had to pay $16 million to me, which was good. It was worth having somebody lie. If you get $16 million, that's good. But JD had a very nasty person interviewing him, and we can't let that happen. Just as inappropriate to cut off a highly respected vice president of the United States mid-sentence. It was, I guess it's one way to win an argument. That was the only way he was going to win the argument. So it was pretty inappropriate, I want to tell you that. So thank you very much. Do you have something there?
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Sí. Quería darle.
I'll get it. That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
And when he did this letter, Mr. President, your settlement in the Middle East wasn't done. So we have to do a new letter
Let's do it.
to include that, because this is a very important.
You have to add one extra sentence.
Exactly.
That's great. Thank you very much. This is such a beautiful statement. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Okay.
Mr. President, how is this Argentina?
Why don't we talk about Argentina first?
Yeah.
Go ahead. How is Argentina
Are you
going?
worried about the
How is this
influence of China in Argentina? Sorry.
Go ahead.
How is this Argentina rescue package America first? And is this rescue package meant to help President Milei's party in the coming election?
No, it's helped. It's really meant to help a good financial philosophy where Argentina can, after 20 years of disaster, because it was very successful at one point, and it can be again, like Venezuela. Venezuela was very, very successful, and now it's a dictatorship. So when we can help our neighbors, we're making tremendous progress in South America. South America, Marco was telling me, he's like our great expert here. He really knows it. You were telling me that so many of the countries are coming our way. And we had a few years ago, when I just came back, so I've been here now almost 9 months, but when I just came in, I was amazed to see how poorly we've done. We lost so many, and one of them was Argentina, would be lost if he wasn't there. And I think he will be there because the people recognize he's done an amazing job. He took over a real mess. So did I take over a mess. I took over a mess by, the Biden group. And Obama he started it, I'll tell you. Barack Hussein Obama started it. Could you give a couple of words on South America? You were telling me so well yesterday how well we're doing. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, we have now 8 or 9, 10 countries, Argentina being foremost among them, that have aligned with the United States on issue after issue in international community events all over the world. They're, in fact, these great allies like Argentina, but I can go into others, Costa Rica, I don't want to leave anybody out, El Salvador, but I think one of the more promising developments is later this month, there'll be an election in Bolivia. After 25, 30 years of anti-American hostile government, both of the candidates running in that election and the runoff election want strong and better relations with the United States and another transformative opportunity there. But so I think this is important. This is our hemisphere. It's where we live. And having strong neighbors such as this.
And great progress has been made, really.
And we'll make more.
Absolutely. Over the last 9 months. Really over the last 9 months. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, from Argentina, Buenos Aires, do you imagine soon a free trade agreement with Argentina? Could it be possible soon?
Yeah, it will be. Well, we're going to discuss some of it today. But no, we want to help Argentina. And we want to always help ourselves. But we want to help Argentina. And one of the ways we can do, they have great product. And we used to do a lot of trade, and then if you look at what the Democrats, well, they didn't know. They didn't know. Honestly, they didn't know what they were doing. But a lot of that trade disappeared, and they have great products. So we'll be trading with Argentina, and it'll be helpful to them, and it's helpful. It's good for us also.
Mr. President, was China trying to draw a wedge between the U.S. and Argentina by buying soybeans from Argentina and not U.S. farmers?
I would say so.
And China on the port fees.
China
They've
likes to
increased
draw
port fees on
wedges.
U.S. ships too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess that's natural. It's China, and it's natural, but it's not gonna mean anything in the end.
Mr. President,
Mr.
Mr.
President,
President.
from Argentina, should Argentina end the China swap and close the space base in Neuquén?
I don't think you should be doing business much with. You can do some trade, but you certainly shouldn't be doing beyond that. Certainly shouldn't be doing anything having to do with the military with China. And if that's what's happening, I'd be very upset about that. Yeah.
And what about
You
the swap?
understand that, Scott, right?
Mr. President,
You do understand.
Mr. President, what about the swap? Because it's so important for Argentina, the swap.
Go ahead.
The central bank.
The American assistance is not predicated on the swap with China being closed. Any reporting to that effect is incorrect.
But you said, but you said that Argentina has to export China from your business or from your agenda, and the swap is so important for Argentina.
No, I was referring more to ports, military bases, observation facilities that have been created in Argentina.
Than the swap? More than the swap?
More than the swap.
Okay.
Mr. President.
He was referring to that. Yeah, behind you, please.
Yes, President, for Argentina, what's the benefit for United States in helping this way Argentina?
Just helping a great philosophy take over a great country. Argentina is one of the most beautiful countries that I've ever seen. And we want to see it succeed. Very simple. I mean, we don't have to do it. It's not going to make a big difference for our country, but it will in terms of South America. If Argentina does well, you're going to have others following, and a lot of others are following. You have countries in South America that 2 years ago would have never even been thought of to go as democracies or as just countries that want to do fair and balanced trading. And now, you mentioned Bolivia, but there are numerous other countries that are coming our way. And Brazil, as you know, I had a very good conversation with the president. I met him at the United Nations before I went up to speak, and then I found that I didn't have a speech because I had no teleprompter. They turned off my teleprompter purposely. They made it impossible for me. But it didn't silence me. I spoke without, and it was a good speech. It was a good speech. But no, think of that. You go into the United Nations, I'm speaking in front of 158 leaders and the whole world. And I look at my teleprompter and it's dead. They killed my teleprompter. They wouldn't let the man that operated into the booth. Can you believe that?
You don't have any specific interest in economic terms for the state?
I do have. No, I want to see it succeed. I think it's going to be great, and we will benefit also. But it's not that big a benefit because it's not that big a country, but it's a very important country, and it's a country that can be very successful. There are some countries that will never be successful. This is a country that has great potential if it has the right leadership, and you have the right leadership with this man right here. Okay?
Mr. President,
Mr. President, would you support dollarization?
I would say that I'll leave that up to my my economic people, but I like the dollar. I'm very strong on the dollar. And anybody who wants to deal in dollars, they have an advantage over people that aren't. But for the most part, we're keeping it that way. I think if Biden would have, that group would have gotten elected, meaning Kamala, you wouldn't have the dollar as your currency anymore. You wouldn't have a world domination by the dollar if I didn't win this election. And now the domination, like BRICS. I told anybody wants to be in BRICS, that's fine, but we're going to put tariffs on your nation. Everybody dropped out. They're all dropping out of BRICS. BRICS was an attack on the dollar. And I said, you want to play that game, I'm going to put tariffs on all of your product coming into the U.S. They said, like I said, we're dropping out of BRICS. And BRICS is like, they don't even talk about it anymore. Scott, you want to add to that, please?
We're very happy with the current currency arrangement.
Mr. President,
Your ABC fake news.
Mr. President,
Brian, please.
First of all,
I
congratulations.
don't take questions from ABC fake news. After what you did with Stephanopoulos to the Vice President of the United States. I don't take questions from ABC fake news. Brian, go ahead.
Yes, sir. First of all, congratulations on achieving peace. You are indeed the peacemaker. On a lighter...
Did you ever think I was going to be called the peacemaker?
Actually, I did. I saw some of the actors you were...
Go ahead.
But on a lighter note, Alyssa Farah, she is one of the hosts on ABC's show The View. She said a while back, I'll quote, "If Trump gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on this show and say thank you for doing it." Your response?
Well, did she put the hat on?
Well, she hasn't got the hat yet.
Who is it? Which one?
Alyssa Farah.
Well, she used to work for me. So she used to work here. I'll tell you about Alyssa. She worked here. She gave me the most beautiful letter when, the administration, the time came up, the election was rigged, I left. She gave me the most beautiful letter you've ever seen. I was a great president. What a great job. Some of the letters have been quoted. This is Alyssa, who I never thought was very outstanding. I figured she would not make it. And she didn't have a big role here either. And then we had January 6th, and she left after that or before that, but she gave me the most beautiful letters. And then even months after she left, and while we weren't here any longer, she sent another letter, glowing letter, beautiful letter. And then she got hired by The View, and they gave her a couple of bucks, and she changed her view very quickly. I never thought she'd make it. Never thought she had what it took in any way. You know what that means. But she's on The View. But it just shows what a fraud The View is, because this woman gave me letters and statements. She said I was the greatest president in her lifetime. Now, she's not that old, so I didn't consider it a great compliment, but I've had better.
Can we send her a hat?
Well, recently I've had the greatest president of them all. I like that much better.
Mr. President?
Does that include Washington and Lincoln? Yes, sir, it does. I said I like that person. So I think she's a total. I think she's a joke.
Mr. President, on Gaza, how long will it take Hamas to disarm, and can you guarantee that is going to happen?
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm, and if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you, but if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games. Okay. Now, we did something monumental. We got the hostages back. That was the first thing we had to do. Above all else, get the hostages back. Now, they misrepresented because we were told they had 26, 24 of dead hostages, if we can use those terms. And it seems as though they don't have that because we're talking about a much lesser number. But that's a very tough subject. I want them back. That's what they said. I want them back. Also, they said they were going to disarm. And initially speaking, they needed, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out. And they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. We had a couple of very bad gangs. It's no different than other countries. Like Venezuela sent their gangs into us, and we took care of those gangs. We have Washington, D.C. is one of the safest cities in the country. It was one of the worst cities in the country if you go back just a little while ago, right? Now it's safe. You can walk to work. Isn't it nice? But we have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes. You say
because
quickly.
everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm, or we will disarm them. Got it? Okay.
What is the deadline you're going to put on that? You say quickly, sir. Sir, you say quickly, but what is the deadline you're going to put on that before you take
period
action?
of time. Pretty quickly. A reasonable period of time.
Congratulations on the peace you achieved in the Middle East, first
Thank
of all.
you very much.
And my question is regarding Argentina. Does continue?
Are you from Argentina?
I'm from Argentina, yes.
I like the Argentina. I like them much better than ABC. Than ABC fake news.
Me too, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Does continued U.S. support for Argentina depend on the results of the upcoming legislative elections and the ability of the government to pass long-lasting reforms through Congress?
Well, I think if they don't do that, we're not going to be around very long. Scott, can you handle that one, please?
We're confident that the president's party will and the coalition will do well in the election, and this aid is predicated on robust policies, and going back to the failed Peronis policies would cause a U.S. rethink.
It's a little bit. It's a great question. It's a little like New York. You know, you're reading in Argentina about New York. We have a problem. We have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing. Practically, he's never worked a day in his life, and he sort of caught on, right? And I'm not going to send a lot of money to New York. I don't have to. You know, the money comes all through the White House, and if they're going to be sending us stupid policies, I mean, communist policies, which is proven for thousands of years doesn't work. You know, we don't have to prove it again. We're not going to ruin one of our great cities because we'll make that great. We will clean up the crime in about 30 days. It took 12 days to do Washington, D.C., so New York is bigger. And Chicago, we've already made a lot of progress despite fighting from the government, but Chicago's doing great. Memphis is doing really great. You know, we have great support there from the political leaders. They said, please come in and clean up crime. And we love it. We've in 1 week, Memphis is so good. It's so much better. We'll have it within a month. We'll have that into a safe city again. And all of these cities, we want to clean them up. We don't like that opposition. But if somebody's going to be a communist mayor of New York, it's a fluke if he gets in. There are a lot of failed people that he's running against. I mean, you have inferior candidates or something, because it's impossible to think that New York City can have a communist mayor. He's a communist. He's not a socialist, by the way. There's a big difference. He's a communist. He's down and dirty. He's a communist. He hates police. He wants to get rid of all police. I mean, how can a policeman? He hates Jewish people, and yet he's got Jewish people supporting. He hates Jewish people. So it comes through the White House. The funding for New York and for every place comes through the White House. And I'm very generous, and I was always very generous with New York, even when you had opposition there, but I was always very generous. But I wouldn't be generous to a communist, a guy that's going to take the money and throw it out the window, because you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're not going to let somebody get into office and squander the taxpayer money from this country. We're not going to let it happen. So it's a little bit like that with, if you take a look at Argentina, if the president doesn't win, I know the person that he'd be running against, I believe, probably. We probably have the person. A person is extremely far left and a philosophy that got Argentina into this problem in the first place. So we would not be generous with Argentina if that happened. If he loses, we are not going to be generous with Argentina.
Mr. President, you talk about Argentina and important in the Latin American. What is your plan for Venezuela? But is the terrorism, the narco-terrorism in the President Maduro? What is your plan about it?
Venezuela's done a couple of things very badly. Number one, we get drugs and all of that. But we get something in a way worse, because they're a big purveyor of drugs, but we have worse. What they do very well is they send their criminals into the United States, and they send Tren de Aragua, that you know very well. You're from Venezuela, I assume. And they send them in by the thousands, literally. And these are the worst of all. And they empty their prisons into the United States. They empty their mental institutions into the United States. And because we had a president who's low IQ, he didn't realize what was going on. And the people that are high IQ that surround him, but they happen to be lunatics, radical left, they're highly intelligent, radical left lunatics, okay? So in a way, that's worse than having a guy like Biden. But they ran the show. You heard about the AutoPen. The person that really operated the AutoPen, but it was really the people that told the person that operated the AutoPen what to do. Those are the people that really were president, okay? So we're not going to stand for it in this country. And by the way, that AutoPen thing is under serious investigation. Just this, I don't think you care, because you're from Argentina, you couldn't care less about that. But I just want to say, because I do the weave, you know, the weave, cover a lot of different subjects. But the people that are involved in that AutoPen scam, because he barely signed anything. I mean, this guy, I don't know how you can be president. He barely signed it. But the only thing we can find for sure is that he signed Hunter's pardon, his pardon. Hunter's pardon, I like that. That's a good combination. So we're going to work very much with the president. We think he's going to win. He should win. And if he does win, we're going to be very helpful. And if he doesn't win, we're not going to waste our time because you have somebody whose philosophy has no chance of making Argentina great again.
What's your advice for
Steve, go ahead. Steve.
What's your advice for
Just to check something, you said Hamas assured you that they would disarm. Was that a direct conversation or through Mr. Witkoff or
through my people?
Okay.
At the highest level.
What's your advice?
And it was meant for him.
What's your advice for President Milei and Argentina as a political leader?
My advice is to hold strong to his principles because he's right, and he's proving that he was right. He's got one problem. He's got people that are giving him tremendously bad press, even though they know it's wrong. He's got to hold true to his principles because he's going to win. He's going to win. He's doing the right thing. Everybody knows he's doing the right thing, but you have a radical left sick culture that's a very dangerous group of people, and they're trying to make him look bad. I believe he's going to win out.
And we're doing the right way with China in this house.
China? Well, you have to be careful with China. Everybody deals with China. They have to deal with us too. We have to be careful with China. Look, I have a great relationship with President Xi, but sometimes it gets testy because China likes to take advantage of people, and they can't take advantage of us. But we have a fair relationship with China, and I think it'll be fine. And if it's not, that's okay too. You have to do and go where the punches are thrown. You got to put up the blocks. We have a lot of punches being thrown, and we've been very successful. Look. We have the most success. I think we're the most successful we've ever been as a country. We have now close. I've been saying 17. We have, I think, close to or maybe even exceeding $18 trillion going to be invested in the United States. That's more money than ever invested in any country before. Even countries with much bigger populations, like India or like China, nobody's ever had $18 trillion invested in the country. We have, and that's because of November 5th election, because I won. Oh, if she won, you'd be negative. You'd have people getting out of the country. This country would have been in a major depression. If she won, we would have been 1929. They'd like to see that anyway. That's why they keep the government laws. They have a shutdown based on nonsense. They want to give away 1.5, think of it, they want to give away $1.5 trillion to people that come into the country illegally. And as you know, the borders now are closed. But when they hear that they get the greatest health care package in the world and they have no money, but they're living okay in another country, they head up and they start forming caravans and they try and come into our country. But the big problem is they want to give health care to people that should not get health care. They want to give health care to illegal immigrants by the millions. Look at Gavin Newsom, what he's done. He's ruined California. He gives health care to anybody. And I guess they do it for votes. I actually think it's bad politics, but I guess they do it for votes. So I'm with this man because his philosophy is correct. And he may win and he may not win, but I think he's going to win. And if he wins, we're staying with him. And if he doesn't win, we're gone.
How can Argentina help to the peace process, to the Middle East peace process?
They can help by doing well. If Argentina does well, that's helpful because they know we help Argentina. So if Argentina is successful, that's great because they view us as somebody that helped Argentina and they did well, and the United States maybe will help them and they're going to do well. So the success of Argentina would be a great feather in the cap of the USA because we're helping them. Right? You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, behind you. Behind you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week you said that NATO should consider expelling Spain.
What?
You said that NATO should consider expelling Spain. Would you support that?
What expelling Spain?
NATO consider expelling Spain.
Oh. I'm very unhappy with Spain. They're the only country that didn't raise up their number to 5%. Every other country in NATO raised up to 5%. And Spain is doing very well off our backs. So I'm not happy with Spain. Spain gets protection, and they know, look, sort of in the semi-middle of it, so they're going to get protected automatically. Even if you don't want to protect them, you're protecting them because of the way they're located. And I think what Spain did is a very bad thing for NATO. I think it's very unfair to NATO. It wouldn't matter if you said you're not going to protect them because they're pretty much protected. You know, what are you going to do? Go through the other countries and let's go attack Spain, right? So I think what they did is not nice. I think it's very disrespectful to NATO. In fact, I was thinking about giving them trade punishment through tariffs because of what they did. And I may do that. I think unbelievably disrespectful. Spain, the only one out of all the countries in NATO, the only one that said that is Spain. And I think that's, I think they should be punished for that. Yes.
On the government shutdown, you have the money to pay the troops on October 15th. Okay. How is
I actually have a man who is a very wealthy person. You'll know that when I tell you this. Who called a donor, a great gentleman, and he said, if there's any money necessary, shortfall, for the paying of the troops, then I will pay it, meaning he will pay it. How about that? I said, look, we're not going to need it. We're going to take care of our troops. But this was a position that's being forced upon us by Democrats. And all they have to do is just sign a piece of paper saying we're going to keep it going the way it is. You know, there's nothing. It's not like it shouldn't even be an argument. They've signed it many times before. I don't want to bore you with the fact that Schumer said 100 times, you should never close up government. But Schumer's a weakened politician. I mean, he's going to finish his career as a failed politician. He's a failed politician. He's allowed the radical left to take over the Democrat Party. So if they write books about that, if they write books about him, they're going to have to say that his career ended by allowing the radical left to take over the party. I mean, I won an election in a landslide because people are not into the radical left, and the Democrat Party is. People didn't want to see men playing in women's sports. They didn't want to see transgender for everybody. They didn't want to see all of the different things that they do that's so crazy. Open borders. I mean, the worst thing that he did to us, it's not inflation, because we fixed inflation. Prices are way down. I don't know if you saw that gasoline went to 58 just now. Did you see what's going on with gasoline?
we track that?
No, $58 a barrel.
Yeah, we track that.
Nobody can believe it. I'm very proud of that. You know why? Because we're pumping like we've never pumped before. Because if you get the gas price down, everything else comes down. It's very simple. And he went away from my policies, and you had the greatest inflation. The last administration had the greatest inflation in the history of our country. And now, as you know, groceries are down. It's all down.
But on the shutdown, are you settling in for is this going to be a long term? Are we looking months?
It's up to them. All they have to do is just vote to extend. We don't need it. We're not saying we want money. We don't. All we need is a right to extend. They want a right to extend, but they want $1.5 trillion so they can give it away to illegal immigrants, the people that are invading your cities. And many of these people, for whatever reason, I mean, I understood this. I called it a long time ago. These countries are run by people I know, friends of mine. Like, I know this gentleman. I hope you haven't said, he probably did too. Why not? They send up their worst people. They send up people that are criminals. They send up people from jails. And at best, the best ones they send up are people that don't work very hard and that are on a social form of welfare. And they're sending those people into the United States. I don't blame them. I'm angry at them, but I don't blame them. But I'm really angry at Biden and Kamala and that group of lunatics for allowing it to happen, because it's the hardest thing. Now, you know, we're sending them out. It's incredible the job that Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group is doing. But we shouldn't have to be doing that. We're doing a lot of work on getting people out of here. Tren de Aragua has caused tremendous damage, and our soldiers are great. You know, our soldiers are now based on merit. They're not based on woke, because we won the case in the Supreme Court, which was the bravest case. I have such respect for the Supreme Court because of what they did with merit, because our country was built on merit. Countries are destroyed on woke. You know, I made a statement, and I hated to make it because it sounded bad, but everything turns to you know what when it goes woke. You remember the term. I don't like to use it because you might have some children listening, but it turns bad. And no, we have the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. That's why he's here. That's why every other country wants to meet here too. But we only have so many hours in the day and days in the week. But get the hottest country. Think of it. We were a dead country a year and a half ago. And now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's pretty good. Did a good job. Okay, any other questions?
Would you like to visit Argentina? Would you like to visit Argentina soon? There is an invitation for that.
What does that mean?
Do you like to visit Argentina soon?
I do. I would love to. I'm just a little busy. I would love to. I'd love to go to Argentina. I'd like to be like Biden. I'd like to go to the beach. You know? My legs are not quite as thin as his. My legs are slightly heavier. My arms are slightly larger. My body is a little bit larger than his. I'm not sure it would be appreciated on the beach, but I'm not going to take a chance. You won't see me in a bathing suit. You won't see in a bathing suit sitting on a beach in Argentina, falling down, not being able to lift a 3-ounce chair, meant for old people to lift, and he couldn't lift it, so we had a problem. He spent too much time on a beach. Somebody told him that he looked good in a bathing suit. And you'd see this guy on the beach all the time. I never quite understood it. Steve, go ahead.
Could you preview your meeting with Ukraine President Zelensky on Friday? You expect to talk about weapons? Is there going to be a package?
Interesting meeting going on. Look, I'm very disappointed because Vladimir and I had a very good relationship. Probably still do. I don't know why he continues with this war. This war has been so bad for him. He's going into 4 years of a war that should have beaten, he should have won that war in 1 week. He's now going to soon be into his 4th year. He's lost 1.5 million soldiers, probably, close. Certainly in terms of wounded and no legs and no arms and all the things that happen in horrible wars. It's a horrible war. That's the biggest thing that's happened since World War II in terms of death. It's bigger than any of them. I settled 8 of them. The biggest is that in terms of death. Incredible. I think India, Pakistan had great potential too. We did a great job of that one. But he's got to really settle this war. And you know, they have long lines waiting for gasoline in Russia right now, right? They have long lines. Who thought that was going to happen? And all of a sudden his economy is going to collapse. And I'd like to see him do well. I mean, I had a very good relationship with Vladimir Putin. But he just doesn't want to end that war. And I think it's making him look very bad. He could end it. He could end it quickly. And I have to tell you, I give credit because who would think that Ukraine could have fought Russia for 4 years to essentially a standstill? Now, there has been some early, you know, before they knew what the hell was happening because it happened quick. Biden should have never let that happen. That's a war that should have never happened, but it did. But it's not making Russia look good, I will tell you that.
Tomahawks in Ukraine?
We'll be talking about Ukraine, yeah. I mean, I have the president coming in on Friday, and I know what he has to say. He wants weapons. He would like to have tomahawks. Everyone else wants tomahawks. And we have a lot of tomahawks. Tomahawk is do you need any tomahawks in Argentina?
You can cross Moscow, tomahawks.
You need them for your opposition, I guess, because see, in this country, they'd use tomahawks for the opposition. I don't do that. I'm much nicer. The Democrats would use them if they had the chance. They're sick people. Go ahead.
President, are you worried that this plan with Argentina can fail?
Anything can fail. Anything can fail. You never know. That's why I say Putin should do something about the war, because so far, I mean, it's turned out to be very bad for him. But anything can. So this plan can fail. Sure, it can fail, but it's got a better chance. I would say, Scott, it's got a better chance of success than failure. And if it's successful, it's an unbelievable success. It can transform your country into greatness. It's got a great chance. We'd like to give it a chance. Anything can fail, but we'd like to give it a chance. And we think, because he's made so much progress. I mean, the work that he's done over the last 4 years is incredible. And it would be a shame to lose that progress. He's very close to having A big success.
Mr. President, will you consider removing new restrictions on the press that report at the Pentagon? And have you spoken to Secretary Hegseth about this?
I have, yeah. Well, he's finding, I think I can speak for him, I'll let him speak for himself, but I think he finds the press to be very disruptive in terms of world peace and maybe security for our nation. Press is very dishonest. Not you, but the press is very dishonest. You have something to say?
Well, I very much appreciate the question because it was interesting to watch. We had a chance to go along on the historic trip of Middle East peace, which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply says maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations where you have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world. Or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected, and we're proud of the policy.
You know, we have an option here. As you know, the press years ago moved into the White House. It used to be across the street. We could move them. You're lucky I'm president, because we could move them very easily across the street. They used to be there. They would have more room. We have a beautiful, nice space. You can sit all by yourselves and have fun. Instead, you walk around the White House talking to anybody that can breathe. And, you know, but I find that when it comes to war, and now our great Department of War, we have some great people over there, I think it bothers me to have soldiers and even, you know, high-ranking generals walking around with you guys on their sleeve, asking them, because they can make a mistake, and a mistake can be tragic. They can do it innocently, too. They can, you know, and they're not press people. They don't really deal with the press, so they're not really necessarily good at it, although I think it's mostly instinctual one way or the other. You're either good at things or you're not. But I could see you being bothered by that. Mm-hmm. So you have them in an area, and you treat them fairly, but they're not allowed to go into
much like the
somebody's office and sit with them for 10 hours.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I can understand.
Mr. President, Boston had some street takeovers that we saw. Are you going to work with or try and work with the mayor of Boston? And then they have a World Cup. They have several World Cup games. I know Argentina knows about World Cups. They have several World Cup games. Could those games move to cities that do work with you?
We could take them away. I love the people of Boston. I know the games are sold out. But your mayor is not good. They're worse than her. At least she's intelligent. You know, some are extremely low IQ. Those bother me more. She's intelligent, but she's radical left. And they're taking over parts of Boston. That's a pretty big statement, right? We could get them back in about 2 seconds. All she has to do is call us. We'll go in and take them back. But she's afraid to, because she thinks it's bad politically. She could take them back, too. The Boston police are great. I mean, I know them. They love me. She'll never tell them to go after Trump, because they love me and I love them. And I got a tremendous police vote and military vote, you know, and fireman vote, all of them. No, I think she is hurting Boston. The answer is yes. If somebody is doing a bad job, and if I feel there's unsafe conditions, I would call Johnny, the head of FIFA, who's phenomenal, and I would say, let's move it to another location. And he would do that. He wouldn't love to do it, but he'd do it. Very easily he'd do it. And this is the right time to do it. If I thought Boston was doing something that was going to cause safety conditions for the World Cup, I could say the same thing for the Olympics, because, you know, we have events that are in different locations for the Olympics. It's based in LA. If I thought LA was not going to be prepared properly, I would move it to another location if I had to. On that one, I'd probably have to get a different kind of a permission, but we would do that. Gavin Newsom, he's got to get his act together, because had we not gone in at the beginning of my term, had we not gone in with a very strong, powerful force, they would have lost L.A. Now, you already lost 25,000 houses to fires. You got a big scar right in the middle of the city, and that should have never happened, because they should have had the water flowing in from the Pacific Northwest. All they had to do is open up the valves. He didn't want to do it. And he didn't want to do it. He says for environmental reasons. I don't believe that, but for some reason he didn't want to do it. And lost 25,000. You had no water in the fire pumps. You had no water in the sprinkler systems in the ceilings. There were no houses. Normally the things would go in the. You might not have lost. You might not have lost 2 houses. So if he doesn't play ball, we're going to have to be very tough with him. He's done a bad job. Just to finish off on that, so when we went in, we did a phenomenal job. We went in with great force, and that was the end of it. We put it out. We extinguished that fire, which was agitation, and it was a very dangerous position to be in. And we went in and did a great job. But the chief, said we could have never done this without President Trump and without the federal government coming in. Okay, that was it. He said that. Now, 2 or 3 weeks later, he said, we could have done it. But he knows he couldn't. The city was going to be taken over if I didn't go in. And you have to remember that. Los Angeles was going to be taken over. And we have it where the chief said it, I believe, numerous times. But that was as it was happening. That was a rough one. That was nasty. And if we saw a situation like that, we'd be forced to make a move. Boston better clean up their act. That's all I can say. Go ahead. One more question.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
Do you feel any urgency to end the shutdown in the next week, 2 weeks, or would you be fine if it stretches into November and then toward the holidays with folks not getting paid?
Well, shutdown, we've had many, many shutdowns. And this is a shutdown that shouldn't have happened. A group of people brilliantly decided to make it after the election. I said, thank you very much. In other words, give it to Trump instead of Biden. So it shouldn't happen. And likewise, debt ceiling shouldn't have. But the great big, beautiful bill solved the debt ceiling problem for.
Is there a point where you would reach out to all parties?
What's happening in the shutdown, though? Honestly, can I put it in plain words for you? And you're a smart guy, so you all understand. But a lot of people don't. The Democrats are getting killed on the shutdown because we're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we were opposed to. So we're being able, and they're never going to come back in many cases. So we're being able to do things that we were unable to do before. So we're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we wanted to close up or that we never wanted to happen, and now we're closing them up. And we're not going to let them come back. The Democrats are getting killed. And we're going to have a list of them on Friday, closing up some of the most egregious, socialist, semi-communist, probably not full communist, we're saving that for New York, but semi-communist programs. And we're closing them up. We're not closing up Republican programs because we think they work. So the Democrats are getting killed, but they're not telling the people about that. I say it, I haven't said it probably as bluntly as I just said it, but so we are closing up Democrat programs that we disagree with, and they're never going to open again. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
As we've become accustomed to, President Trump and members of his cabinet, including the vice president and the secretary of state, turning the luncheon for the Argentinian president, Javier Milei, a great right-wing populist and friend of the president, a friend of Western civilization, someone who has a lot of common sense, along with the Argentinian delegation, turning into a press briefing right there at the White House and within the West Wing. So a good time for President Trump to reiterate many of the huge successes over the course of roughly 8 or so months in office now, actually getting to that 8-month mark come next week. So we're very excited to see President Trump and his cabinet, as later on today, President Trump participating in the Charlie Kirk Medal of Freedom ceremony at 4 o'clock Eastern. Stay tuned for that. Some extraordinary interviews for you, as well as we thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Every year it's the same old story, and someone has to take care of it in the household, whether it's the cough or the flu or a tiny little cold that infects the entire household. So 10% off of Tamiflu, ivermectin, antibiotics, much, much more, using code RSBN10, which you've grown accustomed to. at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Prepare for cold and flu season. Scan that QR code now because, yes, these rates are climbing fast. The cold and flu, the COVID diagnoses over the course of these last few weeks. And the problem is that when everyone starts getting sick at once, pharmacies and clinics get slammed all at the very same time. So this pharmacy here to help. And if you're the kind of person who likes to plan ahead, why not do so with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN so that you have your medicine cabinet stocked and ready to go. Again, antibiotics, Tamiflu, ivermectin, and mebendazole, NAD+, methylene blue, essential medications, 200 in fact, and emergency medical kits. Every order reviewed by a licensed doctor. No pharmaceutical note needed, but no insurance, no hassle. It's no red tape, no bureaucracy. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Thank you to Monetary Gold for wealth and security preservation and also to protect your retirement, those pensions, everything you worked hard for. Call today. Do not delay. Grab that complimentary presidential gold guide. Learn how you can eliminate your IRA fees permanently and, yes, for life. RSBNforthegold.com. That's RSBNforthegold.com. 888-617-7994. Again, ask how you can eliminate that. And Kalshi.com/RSBN. We have the competitions all set up as we go into the Fall Classic, whether it be these elections on November 4th, the New York City mayoral election. Who will win? Is it Zoran Mamdani? Is it Andrew Cuomo? Is it Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate? Will Bitcoin hit 150,000 before March of 2026 as gold has become, wow, it's skyrocketed through the roof, those precious metals, including silver. Scan that QR code there, trade on anything, and the Los Angeles Dodgers and Milwaukee Brewers playing last night as well in the NLCS. So will the Dodgers repeat that World Series championship? It's sports, it's culture, it's music, politics, everything right there for you. Kalshi.com/RSBN. As we approach the 3 o'clock hour, 1 hour now, scheduled from 1 hour from now, the Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, where President Trump is to posthumously award the Turning Point USA founder and president with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, as we are joined by a dear friend of this network, Jim Paff, president of the Conservative Caucus. And thank you for your patience, sir, as President Trump again showcasing that he can really stand at the forefront, about to have lunch with the Argentinian delegation, including President Milei. But why not answer a few questions from reporters in the White House pool?
Oh, it was really funny. He totally shut down an ABC reporter. And, people, oh, freedom of the press. Oh, my gosh, what are we doing here? Listen, I think it is healthy for a politician to call out media when they're doing wrong. And that's just part of the give and take. And we haven't had that kind of give and take from our politicians. And so that was very refreshing to see, and lots of great responses to the situation in Argentina. And of course, a lot of wins that Donald Trump is talking about in that short little presser there. So very refreshing. This is maybe the most open presidency in my lifetime. It's really awesome.
And speaking of that, we were on the front row of history yesterday and throughout this journey. Truly peace in the Middle East as those 20 hostages who are alive released to their families. You do have some Palestinian prisoners who went back the other direction as well. We have not seen something like this, as President Trump puts it, 3,000 years in the making, where peace really seems to be at the forefront and the goal of each and every one of these governments throughout the Middle East. Where do you see it now going? Because now there's inspection crews also searching for the bodies of the remains of 28 other hostages from Hamas. Now this potential governing board comes in from a UN perspective, from a global perspective, and in turn, the next goal in this to demilitarize Hamas, but they seem rather hesitant regarding it. Where do you see the next few steps going in the coming weeks?
Well, I think it is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't trust the UN as far as I can throw them, but we have a political situation as well where Donald Trump is dominating this process because he's utilizing his position as president of the United States in an effective way. He's using the fact that he really was the main negotiator at the end of the day. Of course, there are a lot of negotiations that happen outside of him, but he's gotten a very effective team that did a lot of great things. And he set the stage for this in his first administration with the Abraham Accords, which built trust and built cooperation amongst many of the Arab nations, Islamic nations in the Middle East region. So that makes for a lot of positive, or at least this positive outcome to come about. It will be sustained in part in two ways. First of all, the aggressiveness of how this will be dealt with. Donald Trump made it very clear in this press conference that Hamas had better come in line if they don't want to disarm, if they don't want to come peacefully to this, that he made a veiled threat today, that would be a very dangerous thing for them to do. He didn't say precisely what he would do, but he was willing to imply that it would be something very aggressive. You need an aggressive stance against a regime organization like Hamas that truly destroyed Gaza. Like the Gaza that they received in 2006 is decimated in stature and in capability and economic capability from what it was that Israel gave to them. They gave them not just the willingness to help with food aid and various different things that they were willing to do to help that peace process hopefully get off the ground. It did not get off the ground because Hamas totally turned Gaza into a hellhole. It isn't just the military efforts that Israel undertook that made it a bit more of a hellhole because of response to October 7th. But it really was Hamas that destroyed Gaza, and it's really unfortunate. So there is hope. The thing, though, that in the long run that will give this peace process its greatest chance of success is economics, because Donald Trump has made agreements and arrangements on his trip to the Middle East earlier this year. He made the kind of arrangements that will allow for an opportunity of success, because you've got nations in the region that are building economic relationships with the United States on a normal ground, not some we're going to give you aid and throw money at you so you'll be nice to us type things. It's real opportunities for growth in their economies. And this is strategically really important for long-term success, because when you build those kinds of relationships in a fair manner where everybody wins, then you have a real sea change in terms of the diplomatic efforts that come out of that, because these nations are going to be more willing to act in a diplomatic fashion to help have the best chance of groups like Hamas not being able to maintain their kind of leverage, mostly through terror, that they have had in the past. You've got Israel decimated in a way from the actions Donald Trump took, or Iran decimated because of the actions that Donald Trump took to get rid of their hopes for a nuclear program, or at least short-term hopes. It's going to take a lot of time to build that back up. So Iran doesn't have the capability of really, making the Hezbollahs and the Hamasas in the region strong enough to undertake their terror campaigns. And then lastly, there's a much bigger positive outcome to this, because since Donald Trump is building these relationships in the Middle East economically and diplomatically and otherwise, that puts China in a bad situation, because now China can't help Iran to effectively continue their efforts, mostly through their purchase of Iranian oil, gave Iran the capability to do that. That is going to get pushed further to the back end because of this arrangement that's there. But now you've got Arab countries, most of whom are oil producing, are going to be inclined towards us rather than towards China, and it reduces China's efforts to make the region and keep the region unstable. So there's a whole lot of good potential here that can come out of it. Of course, we're still in a precarious phase where you need some further steps to come into play. Those seem to be playing out, but for the reasons I just described, I think you've got a real chance of that actually happening. And his threat to Hamas today, I guarantee you, is serious. I don't think he's going to put up with them backsliding out of this. So, we're all still a bit in bated breath, waiting to see how it plays out. But all the pieces of the puzzle so far are in place that there's a better than average chance that could happen.
It's 4D chess with the peacemaker in chief and really the art of the deal in real time. I think that's so true, Jim, that he's realigned global trade through tariffs and through actually offering an olive branch in a sense. And I remember in the first term, it was much like that with North Korea. Look at what you can have through capitalism, through free and truly fair trade and dialogue instead of threatening people. In turn, that might actually bring someone to the table. And so much, like you were saying, geographically speaking, and in regards to power changing with Syria, with Iran in the last 2 decades, and the Houthi rebels and Hezbollah, ISIS, all but gone, at least for the moment, because, again, it's a hard ideology to ultimately kill because it's so radical. From the river to the sea, that chant that we hear in New York City as we're approaching a mayoral election is calling for the extermination of the Jewish people. That's what it really means. It's as anti-Semitic as it gets, and it's sad to hear those echoed choirs in the United States here stateside, but an echoed choir happening in a bipartisan manner, perhaps a shimmering glimpse of what we could have, given that former President Bill Clinton and former First Lady, the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, praising President Trump in this moment. Now we had the auto pen, and we know that he's not writing those messages, but then former Secretary of State also Anthony Blinken, somewhat taking credit for this, which I found relatively bizarre, but regardless, a moment of bipartisan consensus of peace in the Middle East. This was an extraordinary action thanks to the leadership and fortitude of President Trump. Now, where do we go stateside when it comes to domestic politics and reopening the government? Will the Democrats under the leadership of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries really come to this table and just pass a clean CR?
Well, that could be possible. I mean, the fact that you don't offer going to a Middle East analogy and how it can come into here, you cannot offer an olive branch without having strength. I mean, to offer an olive branch implies that you are coming from a position of strength, and usually from overwhelming strength. The one who provides the peace is the one who has the power. Okay, that's that is the way proper governments work. When it comes here domestically, Donald Trump has the same power right now. He's standing firm. He's showing the Democrats that he will take action in the federal government that he is authorized to do, whether it comes to layoffs in federal employees, the elimination of certain programs that are non-essential programs. The 2019 budget agreement it gave him at least some wiggle room to work with. The Democrats are facing that as well. It's not just that he refuses rightly to reject their plans for this CR that would increase spending by, as is claimed, $1.5 trillion. I don't know what that actual number is, but it's probably somewhere close to that. But also the effective rescission of spending by getting rid of certain government employees and these non-essential programs. That is the risk that Democrats are taking by continuing this battle. So Donald Trump has the upper hand. He is right now strongly influencing both John Thune and particularly Mike Johnson, who owes his speakership to Donald Trump's efforts to get the votes. He's utilizing that in the proper and effective way to work through the Democrat intransigence here, stubbornness, to get the CR passed. So if they want to negotiate anything, they're going to have to do it on the basis of continuing the government. Donald Trump has all the strength in that argument right now. The American people are also backing him because they see that Democrats are trying to reverse what was done earlier in the year that, I think from a spending perspective was not such a great deal, but in terms of the freedom that it gave American people was a great deal, whether it comes to immediate expensing of business investment or the no tax on tips and the elimination of most of the taxes on Social Security income that's coming in. And some other factors. Those were very powerful things that were very positive. Now, if Democrats want to negotiate beyond that, Donald Trump's drawn a line in the sand and said, you can't do it until you get the CR. We're not even going to talk to you. That is the right stand to take here. And it is the way that Republicans have needed to act for decades now and have refused to do so, whether you had a President George W. Bush in office or whether you just had a Republican Congress opposing a Democrat, whether it was Obama or Biden. Republicans have been weak in their response to these sorts of negotiations. Donald Trump is providing the strength that can help us get on a better path, get out of this $37 trillion of debt that we're in right now, reverse that. That is a very powerful thing to do. We haven't seen this kind of Republican response to Democrat demands since the Gingrich years, right after the '94 when Republicans dramatically took control of Congress in the Clinton administration. Clinton had to bend because Republicans took strong stands, and it turned into something fantastic where we were actually running surpluses. Now, I'm not predicting immediate surpluses coming, but you have to take this kind of stand to get back in that direction. So what will happen after this? Well, I think this shutdown is going to continue because Democrats have remained stubborn. They show no signs of backing off of that stubbornness. And until they do, the government's going to stay shut down because of their determination to keep it shut down. Nothing's happening before October 18th because Democrats want to try to build momentum for these No Kings rallies that they claim are going to rise up on October 18th, particularly in D.C. Frankly, I have some questions right now how big they will be. There's a lot of dispiritedness on the left right now and in Democrat ranks because they're not winning the debate publicly. And they have to get a lot of people who are willing to back them to do it. They're dispirited right now. Your rank and file Democrat voter, they're not inspired by these No Kings protests. But Democrats know that Democrat leadership in Washington knows that they'd be in a world of hurt if they were to cave in right now with the base that would show up to something like that. They're going to try that effort, obviously. I think it's not going to be very successful after the big wins that Donald Trump is having. And so look for this thing to be extended, maybe even out fully to the 60, 61 days that will allow all these furloughs to turn into departures of government employees, as they should, by the way. We really need that right now. So, Donald Trump's got all the cards right now. Democrats don't have a joker to pull out of the stack to try to give themselves a good hand. And we'll see how it plays out, but I predict that it continues on and that Democrats right now are losing that debate.
In essence, it's somewhat of a Doge 2.0 brought to us by the Democrats, and thank you for that to the Democrat Party, which unintentionally led us to that direction, Jim. And as a big cinema fan as I am, I think of The Dark Knight, the moment when the Joker and Batman are battling, and when the Joker thinks those two ships are going to explode, and then the response of Batman just saying, they just showed you how good people are to one another, and it surprises evil at times. And I think we're seeing that right now in so many different ways with a number of successful wins by this administration and by Republican leadership in Washington, D.C. Jim Paff, president of the Conservative Caucus, thank you for your deep analysis, and come back and see us soon on the right side of history.
Look forward to doing it. Thanks, sir.
And as we cover a big day of news, when is it not a big day of news in the golden era? President Trump to participate in Charlie Kirk's Medal of Freedom ceremony in roughly 45 minutes. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network for what's sure to be an exciting, a happy, a sad reflection upon a wonderful life and legacy on what would have been his 32nd birthday, the United States Senate, making this day, Charlie Kirk's birthday, Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day. So that's why we're here celebrating with all of you, and we look forward to bringing you to the White House in roughly 45 minutes from now. Thank you to angelpaste.com for sponsoring us here on the right side of history. The miracle cream that you have seen me use here at the network. It's a favorite of mine, especially this time of year as that dry air starts to creep in. It's quite pleasant, that nice crisp fall air in the morning, leading to just stupendous days in East Alabama, southwestern Georgia as well. But again, with that, some of those drier temperatures, so your hands might get dry, and that's why the Miracle Cream Original is really the go-to to use. But there's also an orange option, vitamin C infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, also a natural facial spray. The Miracle Cream that is angelpaste.com, this company with several different options, so go visit. But they're also Christian-owned. They are based in Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America, a lovely place to live in the Lone Star State. Experience the miracle that is angelpaste.com. They hire veterans, and they are the finest in the business. It's about making America healthy again. You could start right with angelpaste.com. And speaking of making America healthy again, remember those lead pipes in Flint, Michigan, and some of those Democrat-run cities that have infrastructure that's older than your grandparents. Drink pure, live pure. Make sure that the lead does not get into your tap water. It can cause cancer and brain damage, liver failure. CovePure.com/RSBN has Clearwave technology leading in this reverse osmosis space and removing 99.9% of the impurities out of the water. Get $200 off right now. CovePure.com/RSBN. You could see there with the video, you have hot water, lukewarm water, cold water. Always good to get H2O into your system to start the day and keep yourself hydrated throughout the day. And you can scan that QR code there now for CovePure.com/RSBN for what's really a life-saving system. It's no bigger than your coffee maker and could sit right there in your kitchen counter. Utah, Florida, all joining in this battle to make America healthy again with their legislation. We know Secretary Kennedy working hard to remove the fluoride, the agricultural runoff, and pesticides out of the water, including hormone blockers like birth control. So with all of those government reforms, smart to drink pure and live pure with Clearwave technology, brought to you by CovePure.com/RSBN. And Perplexity has brought you a new AI-powered web browser called Comet, where you can unlock 1 month free of Rumble Premium. So browse at the speed of thought with Comet and get started at pplx.ai/RSBN. So think about this for a moment. How many of you go online and it takes minutes, hours to get daily tasks done, from searching to research, also browsing, to many other countless things, scheduling meetings to dinners and all of the above? Imagine having a personal assistant within an AI-powered web browser. So think about this. You're doing business in Miami, Florida. You got to get to Austin, Texas next week. You want the best Tex-Mex. But John, your business partner, is all the way out in Seattle, Washington. So 3 hours apart, you're working to prep this big meeting at a conference that's coming up, and it's tech-centered and focused. It's going to be right there in Austin, Texas. But you want to find the best restaurant. Comet can make sure to not only schedule that for you, but it will send out that meeting and all of the information over to John so you don't have to hassle about it and worry about it as you're preparing for those clear and concise moments for your big conference. So figure all that, as I've now started to use this, pplx.ai/RSBN, a great tool to assist. Through Perplexity, unlock 1 month of free Rumble Premium. You can't go wrong with that. Browse at the speed of thought with Comet. pplx.ai/RSBN. Thank you to Perplexity, and thank you to all our sponsors here at the right side of history. Again, scheduled 40 minutes from now, President Trump to participate in the Charlie Kirk Medal of Freedom ceremony as we welcome in Drianna Sixto, Turning Point Action spokesperson. What a day it is, Drianna. Charlie, our friend, would have been 32 years young, and I don't know of anyone else personally who crammed so much into life in 31 years as he did, working to make America great again, a movement that began as free speech and free enterprise and freedom of choice when it came to your brain and actually thinking for yourself on a college campus, truly diversity of thought. And then it turned into a Christian movement, a movement that was focused on saving this grand republic. So some of your thoughts today on Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day.
Well, not too long ago, I was browsing through old pictures that I have. I've been with Turning Point, the Turning Point family in general, for about a decade now. And today on his birthday, obviously that was pulling at my heartstrings. And so I was just going back in those old pictures. And one of the earliest photos that I found with me and Charlie was him in a shirt that also said freedom, which, as you know, was the last thing he wore before his untimely death. And it just went to show that from the very beginning, you know, where his heart was, what the overall message for him was. I think Charlie wanted freedom for us, and for that, it can't just limit itself to the political space. Obviously, he fought hard for conservative economic policies, but then the spirit is truly free when we admit to and submit to a God, right? Because if not, then who becomes our God? Who do we look up to? The government, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people that don't have God in their lives look to the government for a moral compass and for guidance, and that never ends well. So it is so appropriate that today he receives the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and that his wife, you know, accepts it for him, Erica. So it made me think of how everything ties in. And I'm blessed to have been a part of that journey with him. I'm blessed to have been able to witness from the very beginning his extremely humble starts with a very tiny team. I think that so many people that are on his team right now are going to take this this medal, this, you know, the celebration of his life, which is really what it is, to heart. And we're so thankful that President Trump quickly took action in recognizing him for the great man that he was, and that will continue to be for years, because, I mean, his name is not going away anytime soon. What he stood for is not going away anytime soon. And the word freedom is going to resound loudly every time his name is spoken.
Oh, that's so true, Triana. And the blood of the martyrs, they become more alive than they ever were, even with their amazing fortitude and their testimonies while here on this side of heaven, while on earth, that mission culminating in their sacrifice. And I think Charlie is nothing short of that, truly a martyr for liberty, for freedom, for Christianity, and for so many people now turning to not only their Bible, but to a Bible-based community and realizing how important that is over the course of the last month. In turn, how fitting is it that we have peace in the Middle East, unlike any peace we've seen in perhaps 3,000 years, as President Trump has put it. And this, even with the Camp David Accords, the Carter administration, to the first Trump administration with the Abraham Accords, we really have something now that's quite unique, extraordinary. And how fitting is it to honor Charlie today on his birthday, because he is someone who wanted peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, and that is, you know, that was one of his biggest focus in his last days, because overall, the loss of life is a tragedy, no matter on which side of the aisle it is. The loss of innocent life of children is a tragedy, and it's not something Charlie wanted. So he, I know, is looking above from heaven and just smiling at the fact that this happened, and smiling at the fact that hopefully from now on we can move forward and rebuild, and that this, you know, ceasefire will last, and that this peace will be everlasting. I think that we've definitely gained an angel. And who knows, maybe Charlie's out there sitting on the shoulders of world leaders and whispering to them, to just come to terms and come to agreement so that there can be peace, not just in the Middle East, but worldwide. I hope that this continues to be replicated.
I've had this vision in my head since everything that happened, and then being out there for the ceremonies in Phoenix, Arizona, stopping by the Basilica in Phoenix, where Pope John Paul II knelt in prayer. It's actually marked off from late 1987, where he visited the area, State 48, right there in a gleaming, beautiful desert, where he knelt in prayer. And I thought about how he fought socialism, how Ronald Reagan fought socialism along with Margaret Thatcher at the time, and saved Western civilization in turn. And we are now battling some of those same radical elements that exist. But you have, thanks be to God, these agents of good like Charlie who did just the same. So I almost had this funny image of both of them wearing socialism sucks T-shirts in heaven and celebrating and blessing us from on high, because the church militant here on earth and here in heaven, we all believe, regardless of denomination, that we are all very much alive and that we commune with one another mostly through that prayer to the Almighty. Now, do you think that will help with any change of heart for Democrats here at home? Because we've had a bipartisan echoing from leaders of the past to the leaders of now saying, President Trump, thank you for your leadership and fortitude on this very matter, with the grand exception of communists like Mr. Mamdani up in New York City. But do you think this will bring these Democrats back to the table and actually open the government so we can help the most vulnerable in our nation?
I would really hope so, because keeping the nation hostage is just not the play. It's not the move. If the Democrats really cared about making people's lives better, they would pass this CR bill and then talk about healthcare policy down the line. I think Republicans are very much willing to negotiate on things. But right now, people are suffering as a result. And some of the people that sacrifice the most for our nation, our military, our troops, our government workers, our TSA agents, so many people are showing up to work with, because they're essential employees, but then not taking home a paycheck. I think that is absolutely not fair to them. And what the Democrats are asking for is to set a precedent that is dangerous, basically holding the country hostage just to pass policy. And that's not how this works. You don't get legislation that you want passed by, not funding the government. That's not how this works. And we can't, unfortunately, give in to that kind of pressure. And not only that, unfortunately, we've seen in the past that Democrats like to change the definition of things. Republicans at the beginning, we've heard the mainstream media say that Republicans are claiming the Democrats are shutting down the government because they want to give them free health care, but illegal aliens can't receive health care right now. Well, as it turns out, May 2024 of last year, under the Biden/Autopen administration, they changed the terminology of who qualifies as legally present, because right now, legally present migrants can opt in for subsidized health care. And just last year, they added in DACA recipients to that terminology. So indeed, illegal aliens, basically illegal alien minors, are able to access this healthcare that is subsidized by taxpayer dollars. So there have to be clear definitions of what it is that we're talking about, what it is that, we mean by subsidies, who gets to access these. And in the end, Republicans are trying to be fiscally responsible around all this, because we have to think long term, right? We have to think long term, and the younger generations are going to be the ones paying for irresponsible spending and this national debt that keeps racking up. This is something that Charlie, by the way, was extremely vocal about from the very beginning. The fact that his generation, his young generation, we're going to be the ones paying for this reckless spending and making sure that those that shouldn't be accessing our taxpayer fund benefits and services is a huge way of being fiscally responsible. That's what Republicans want. It benefits every single legal American, legal permanent resident in the United States from both sides of the aisle. It doesn't really matter. And we are looking out for the interests of the people of our nation because Charlie did preach about this as well, that, you know, it is important to love thy neighbor and you take care of your neighbor, your people first before looking outwards and helping anybody else. So I think that's what this boils down to.
Yes, $37 trillion in debt and counting, billions being added on in roughly 2 weeks because of the Democrat shutdown. 3 weeks from now, and early voting underway in New York City and the Garden State of New Jersey, the Commonwealth of Virginia. Some big races to get a temperature on what 2026 might look like as the first big elections post the 2024 presidential election, one which will no question go down in history as perhaps the most famous. What are some of your thoughts there as we lead into this? Because this whole debt crisis really, I think, might be on the minds of some voters up in the mid-Atlantic and up the eastern seaboard.
Yeah, I think the reality is that life is still unaffordable for the majority of Americans. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and I think we need to focus on the people here at home first before thinking about sending government aid elsewhere, before thinking about trying to include illegal aliens into healthcare plans, which Democrats are trying to do. Covertly, they are trying to do it. And in areas and in states where Democrat leadership rules, they even have state-funded healthcare services that are granted to illegal aliens, like in California, where they do have access to subsidized healthcare. And they just don't want to see these kinds of things passed federally. I think that this would be detrimental to absolutely everyone. And not just that, the candidates that are recently coming up from the Democrat side in important races like Mamdani in New York, the AG race in Virginia. It's showing the ugly extremist side of who the new generation of Democrat leadership will be. As we know, Mamdani is a self-proclaimed socialist. He is proud about that. He's used that term. He's not middle of the line at all. In Virginia, the AG Democrat nominee, he was caught recently sending text messages that said that he wished death upon his political opponent and his political opponent's child. He has received, he hasn't gotten any kind of endorsement removed from him from the Democrat side. These are the people that are the face of the Democrat Party now. I think going into the midterm elections, we'll really have a clear idea of what the American people, want and who they want to represent them. Hopefully it's not these extremist people or people that have no moral compass.
Yes, some deeply disturbing rhetoric. And again, follow the money, as Mr. Mamdani has to return roughly $13,000 in donations from foreign entities, something that's illegal. Mm-hmm. And to your point, Triana, also illegal, even per Obamacare, but federally illegal. The subsidies, whether private or public, for illegal alien health care. We're seeing that, like you said, in California, Oregon, Illinois, and New York, just to name a few, even though the Democrats creating this smoke and mirrors effect. So we'll see what the voters do in 3 weeks here. It's Triana Sixto, Turning Point Action spokesperson. We're so grateful to have you and your insight on this Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, and we'll let you go so you can watch everything from the White House, as we'll be right there watching with you. Thanks for coming on Right Side Broadcasting Network today.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
And as we cover a big day of news and also, again, President Trump presenting Charlie Kirk and specifically Erica Kirk the Medal of Freedom at a ceremony today, moments from now, roughly 25 minutes away scheduled. He is enjoying lunch right now. If you caught the earlier broadcast with the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, a dear friend of freedom, a dear friend of right-wing populism, and translates to common sense and a much-needed voice in South America. As we thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, every year it's the same story. You have a cold, a cough, and you spread it throughout the household to the rest of the family. Suddenly, half the house is sick, if not more. So where do you turn? It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. The problem is when everyone starts getting sick at once, the pharmacies, the clinics, they all get overcrowded, overrun, and then they run out of things like Tamiflu, ivermectin, antibiotics, and much, much more. Use code RSBN10 for life-saving medications. Scan that QR code there, RSBN10 for 10% off at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. If you're the kind of person who likes to plan ahead and keep your family protected, this is the place to go. It can get you there closely, so you can look at that now with over 200 medications. And this is some big news right here. Crypto.com aligning with the Trump Media Group. And thanks to an acquisition of $6.4 billion in a deal that will change how CROs are run in this country. In fact, the first CRO traded in American history. Crypto.com. Join the historic movement today for what's sure to be an exciting way to diversify not only your income, but your savings, your wealth, your preservation in a bull strategy market. The Trump Media Group, again, responsible for Truth Social, coming together with Crypto.com, a $6.4 billion acquisition with the Yorkville Group. It's an exciting news, and you can be part of the action. So visit Crypto.com today and join this very historic movement. We also have a very new sponsor here at the Right Side of History, Chapter. Knock out your Medicare to-do list. Call today. Do not delay. It's 833-438-3359. Compare every Medicare plan. And if you remember from a while back, many in our audiences, Medicare annual enrollment time is happening now. So if you're over 64 and you know what it means, nonstop robocalls, the junk mail, everyone wanting to reach out, and sometimes it's a scammer about Medicare and the life-saving opportunities that come with that funding. Now, the truth is Medicare is confusing on purpose. Who benefits from all of this? Big insurance companies. Every year they quietly change hands and their plans. And some plans even drop you completely. This leaves you in a scramble for where to go. But Chapter doesn't do that. So even if you look like every other current plan and there's nothing that's appealing to you, you've got to go back to all of the 2026 options as we approach the new year. That's where Chapter comes in. Chapter doesn't work for big insurance or government. They're independent. They're only advisors who compare every Medicare plan nationwide to find the one that fits right for you. They make quick things very quick and easy, and they're patriots. Will only take 20 minutes of your time to find what's special for you. You could do that today by knocking out that Medicare to-do list. 833-438-3359. Compare every single plan. On average, people who work with Chapter save $1,100 per year. The best part, their help is free. So not a bad trade-off there to get what works well for you in the Medicare system. Again, if you're 64 or older, knock out the Medicare to-do list with Chapter at 833-438-3359. On this Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, as President Trump finishing up lunch with the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, his team, also the vice president, the Secretary of State on hand, and President Trump calling the Secretary of State the greatest in history. And I think Marco Rubio will likely go down as that in a cabinet that's working around the clock to make America great again. We'll have a special treat on the other end of this, but let's take a quick commercial break for sponsors right here on the right side of history. Don't change that dial. It's Right Side Broadcasting's Live Desk on this Tuesday, October 14th.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely. Always a joy to be with you at the live desk as we celebrate Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day. Today would have been his 32nd birthday, and President Trump will participate in honoring posthumously the legend known as Charlie Kirk. And if you actually define his name, Charlie being warrior and Kirk standing for church, the warrior of the church. It's literally the definition of his name when you look back to the Germanic and Latin roots of Charlie Kirk. It's rather remarkable to think about as he receives the Medal of Freedom, a ceremony that will take place roughly 20 minutes from now. Another Turning Point USA alumni and friend here of the network is Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna. We had an opportunity to speak with her earlier, and she had some thoughts not only on this day, but some breaking news right here at Right Side Broadcasting regarding the intelligence community. Joining us at the live desk, Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna from the free Sunshine State of Florida. Thank you for joining us to remember Charlie Kirk, especially given our time, our 10 years overlapping at Turning Point USA. Any fond memories that you have from your work with Charlie and his 32nd birthday culminating in the Medal of Freedom? What a high honor from President Donald Trump.
Yeah, I know Charlie, and I keep saying it, but I really wish that he could be here today to see the accomplishments that President Trump has just been able to do, especially because he was such an advocate for peace, especially in the Middle East, specifically with Gaza and Israel. But one of my favorite memories is actually the first debate that we did together actually at a campus in Portland, Oregon. And so I was sitting down with him literally at a fold-out table and a sign that said there are only two genders, and he had an ice hat on, and that is kind of Charlie's MO, is that he would always basically draw people in to debate them and have them really genuinely present if they had better ideas. And to this date, I actually never saw a debate where Charlie lost. So I think that he's going to be going down in history as one of the greatest debaters and really civil rights leaders of our time.
And watching you and Charlie debate on these campuses, bringing such respect to the other side, it was really quite a sight to see. And I remember as staff, Charlie always said, hey, we're going to have some heckles here. Let's always make sure that those who especially disagree with us actually feel comfortable, because we want the conversation to continue, whether it was a public campus, a private campus, all the way to those in between. And those were fun events, whether it be Campus Clash.
Oh, yeah. He would have people jump to the front of the line. He'd say, if you disagree, come to the front of the line.
Right. It was outstanding. And those are always fond memories. Now let's talk about the current situation regarding peace in the Middle East. This is something that I don't even think people could have recognized from the Camp David Accords, the Abraham Accords, now to what truly looks to be lasting peace. And thank God those 20 last remaining hostages coming back. We now know we have some of the bodies returned of the 28 that remain and are still being searched for. How do you see this happening? Does Congress help with this governing board to really demilitarize Hamas in the next steps?
I think most certainly, but I also think that there's going to be an aspect of at least enabling American nonprofits and individuals who want to go in and help with relief efforts, especially with rebuilding in Gaza. I think that that's been a very strong statement from the president and something that we should all get behind, because essentially what's happened in the Gaza region is it's basically rubble, and an effort to actually provide some sense of life and something for these people to be able to go back to, and really, I think, help push out some of the radical ideologies that are really holding control in that region. You have to give these people something to hope for, right? And so I think President Trump has pointed out there's going to be many countries coming in to help rebuild that region, and he wants to see lasting peace. And so that's been my perspective. I think that that's a great perspective that this administration has. But ultimately, too, going forward, the one thing that President Trump always did well is that, if the United States is going to provide aid, we also expect the countries that are taking the aid to ensure that our policies and what we want essentially is carried through in that region. And so President Trump has been a peacemaker, and he is definitely the type to hold both sides accountable and hold true to that peace treaty. And so I'm very happy to have him in office.
Yes, we are very blessed to have President Trump in office. God is not done with our republic yet, nor is he done with Israel and peace for the Middle East. I mean, this day coming together of people, like he said, this has been 3,000 years in the making, so it's rather remarkable. I was somewhat surprised to see the name of Tony Blair on the list for this board of governors, and President Trump said aboard Air Force One. Yes, I like Tony. I have to look more into Tony, but of course we know he shared former President George W. Bush's philosophy of exporting democracy through force with preemptive wars. Do you think that because of the history with Iraq that might, in a way, not help with having a governing board with the former Prime Minister of the UK, Tony Blair, sitting on that?
Well, the UK is, I think, in a lot of hot water from a lot of their positions in wars. We know that also, too, the UK had really pressured, I think, at the asking of the Biden administration for Ukraine to not take a peace deal with Russia. And that was 2 years ago. So this is not the first time. But I think going back to your initial question, that's a bit concerning. I think anytime that you have any individual or any government or a member of government advocating for war instead of peace, you always should look as to why they're doing that. And so I think right now you're actually seeing a massive amount of war fatigue with the American people. And I think members of Congress, too, there are still a select group of us that are anti-war as a first means of dealing with something. And so I think, that perspective is a healthy perspective to have. Why would you advocate for a situation or a conflict that can get many people hurt when you can have peace talks first?
Yes, and speaking of peace talk, sometimes it's with the Democrats on the other side of the aisle. What are some of those next steps to potentially reopening the government? Because I think House Speaker Mike Johnson and House Republican leadership really knocking it out of the park on this and saying we passed the clean CR. Of course, we want to move beyond this, something that we've really seen since 1998, where more and more CRs have been used instead of opening the government up in a more robust way. So it leaves leadership really demanding of younger congresswomen and congressmen as yourself to kind of be on the sidelines. And that's sad to see that. Perhaps that process will change. But there's no question this is a clean CR. The Democrats want health care funded by the American people to go to illegal aliens. So how do you see this as perhaps an opportunity to reopen it, and hopefully Senator Chuck Schumer will kind of get back and actually play ball and want to work for the American people?
Well, I don't think Schumer wants to do that. I think that they're right now interesting some of their lists of demands. I think we saw $2.7 million for locust research in Africa. I mean, some of the lists of demands that they have, LGBTQI plus funding for different programs in the Balkans. I mean, it's literally insane what they have in some of their requests and demands for reopening the government. And so what's actually, from what I'm hearing on our side of things, is that, there's no reason for the administration to be forced to negotiate with people that are simply not even making sense for what they're requesting. Because this is not on behalf of the American people. This is for other countries, to be clear, and for people that haven't paid into our system. And so I'm perfectly fine with what the administration and perspective is doing and saying that, look, the Democrats are refusing to work on behalf of the American people. And I think, thank goodness we have Russ Vought in the current position that we do, because there are certain certain programs, there are certain projects that are specifically in these blue states that the Democrats have written in basically as re-election pet projects. And so I think that they need to start looking at cutting that funding too, because if they're not going to be honest with the American people, they're using taxpayer dollars to essentially buy their re-elections. I mean, we shouldn't be forced to play that game. And frankly, they're actually costing the American people more of a deficit every single day. And so that's why the administration made the announcement that some of those federal workers that are being let go are not going to be returning. But again, the American government is bloated. I think a lot of people realize that even though government shut down, their daily lives have not changed. But there are certain programs that we do need to ensure maintain funding. And President Trump has done a brilliant job using the reciprocal tariff pot of money that he has had, for example, to fund the programs like women, infant, and children that the Democrats were so easily able to let loose funding to. And so what we're hoping to see happen is that they do come to their senses. But I will say that from what I'm hearing, not just out of chatter out of the White House, but then also among some of my Democrat colleagues, is that they're not anticipating that this is going to be resolved in the next week or so, or even by the end of the month. So I think that this is going to go into November.
Yes, billions of dollars being wasted because of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in this temper tantrum they're having, because that's the thing about their messaging, Congresswoman. It's that, oh, the Republicans don't want to debate and dialogue this. But what that really translates to is either you put this in the CR or we're going to do just this. And I thought they were against the filibuster of all things on the Senate side. So we'll see how this all develops in the coming days, and hopefully it does not take weeks and into the holidays. But you've been very focused on the task force on the declassification of federal secrets, and that's all working with Chairman Comer on the Oversight Committee. Can you give us any new developments on what's maybe taking place from the intelligence community?
I actually have a very big one. Yeah, so actually I have a very, very big one. I just found out earlier today that for the first time since the assassination of Kennedy, that the Russian government has agreed to deliver documents pertaining to their independent investigation into who killed JFK. What's been interesting about that is in the 90s, when Congress tried to obtain those documents, the Russian government denied those documents to them, and they are actually hand delivering those to us. And so that will be uploaded. We're going to be doing it through the Mary Farrell Foundation. I'm also going to be giving a copy to the National Archives. And we actually are bringing on people that can translate those documents. The American people can see what the parallel investigation from foreign intelligence actually said on the assassination. So we know via some of our findings, Radcliffe has done an incredible job with releasing the information that actually largely does show that the CIA not only lied and blocked Congress's efforts to investigate the assassination, but also too that, they had some not so good people over at the agency who I do believe were implicated in the assassination of President Kennedy. So some incredible findings there, but, we are also too at the same time, and this has massive historical significance, but at the same time, we're also opening up an investigation into the Martin Luther King assassination. And so we do have people that have agreed to testify in that hearing. As you know, there's been declassified documents. And then also we cover the UAPs as well in RFK. So we've been working very closely with the CIA to help obtain those documents. I think that Radcliffe has an incredible perspective in saying that, the sins of past directors are not going to be something that he's going to accept, and that he does believe in full transparency, that the American people deserve to know the truth of what happened. So there is full compliance with these different agencies with the president's executive order for the first time in U.S. history.
Nothing short of extraordinary. Thank you for that, Congresswoman. And how can we continue to watch that as those are being released? Is there a timeline with the Russian government sending over those documents?
So I just found out literally an hour ago. So this is the first time that we've actually gotten hard promise for delivery of those documents. So we actually try to pick those up today. But because of the schedule, we're obviously going to be over at the White House for the Presidential Medal of Freedom for Charlie. We are going to be obtaining those documents next week, and then it'll be as quickly as we can get them uploaded. So within the next 2 weeks, the American people should be able to go through those filings. What's interesting is that the Russian government actually had given copies to the federal government at the funeral for Kennedy, and we never obtained those documents, which I believe the CIA destroyed them. What I also think is interesting is that a lot of people don't know, but Kennedy actually had a backdoor conversation the entire time with the then leader of Russia, and he did not want nuclear war. And so he was actually back channeling peace talks, negotiations with Russia at that time during the Cold War. And a lot of people within the intelligence community at the time were trying to paint him as a pro-communist sympathizer, when in actuality, he simply just didn't want war. So interesting times we're living, because I think that a lot of the historical wrongs that have been done in the 60s are being corrected now.
Remarkable. And history does rhyme, as they say, with President Kennedy and then President Trump with the Russia hoax. We know that narrative. And you did say, I believe a few months ago regarding JFK specifically, that you do believe, based on this redacted and declassified intelligence, that there were two shooters potentially. Is that still true based upon...
Yeah, so there's no redactions in some of the documents that have been uploaded. And if there are, we've been pushing back to have the unredacted copies uploaded. But yeah, based on the evidence that we have found and based on direct testimony from one of the doctors in the actual operating room that Kennedy was brought to in Dallas, there were two shooters, without a doubt.
Wow, breaking news here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Please come back and see us, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. Enjoy today. Enjoy remembering Charlie. It is Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, and we will be celebrating that this week. But we appreciate your time coming on the live desk.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna of the 13th District of the free Sunshine State of Florida. All of the hard work she's doing to bring this government transparency to you, the American people. We look forward to having her on again as we celebrate the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk, being awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom from number 45 and 47 himself, just moments away. Thank you to Monetary Gold for your sponsorship here on the right side of history. It's wealth, it's security, it's preservation. Grab your complimentary Presidential Gold Guide today. Call today. Do not delay. Ask how you can eliminate your IRA fees permanently for life. Call immediately right now. It's 888-617-7994. RSBN4thegold.com. RSBN4thegold.com. Monetary Gold, Wealth Security Preservation. Robert Kiyosaki warned us 2 banks failing this year alone, nearly 500 under the Obama administration, 16 between the first and now second terms of President Trump, because we have these BRICS nations doing what they're doing. As Jim Path mentioned earlier on in the show, the president of the Conservative Caucus, it is good how things are realigning, especially peace in the Middle East, and how President Trump using tariffs and realigning global trade so that the Russians aren't necessarily dependent upon China and vice versa, because China has really been pushed back against the ropes. What does that mean for you? Gold, silver, those precious commodities, great to diversify with regardless of who's in power. And again, President Trump is playing 4D chess in all of these peace movements and realigning, again, global trade and these deals that will bring billions into the United States, as many have done so already. We've watched a whole nearly 9 months of this happening. Monetary Gold, Wealth Security Preservation, protect yourself from another depression and from the things that happen around the world, including the BRICS nations that are trying to weaken the American dollar. RSBN4thegold.com. MyPillow.com/RSBN. The 6-piece towel set back in stock. It normally goes for $70, now down under $40, $39.98, a very limited quantity. Call today. Do not delay. It's 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. MyPillow.com/RSBN. He's the purveyor of free speech, defender of election integrity, and a master marketer, as President Trump mentioned at the 100-day celebration in Warren Township, Michigan, the Wolverine State, not far from gorgeous Minnesota, where Mike Lindell might be running for governor. We'll stay tuned on that. MyPillow.com/RSBN. If you like what you see here at the live desk, it's your go-to live desk, in fact. RSBNetwork.com/donate. You may also text RSBN to 801-801. We do appreciate donations as we're taking on a legacy media, as we're diving in deep on the things that actually matter. Do you think the legacy media would reach out to Congresswoman Luna and talk about the declassification of information that is literally changing history? Because history was once tried to be blocked out or blotched out by powers that be, and the truth is finally being revealed. Light shining onto the darkness. That's what journalism is all about, in essence, to keep your government accountable. And because you put a constitutional Republican government, not only in the party name, but also the philosophy of law and order, in the election of 2024 back on November 5th, you now have this unbridled access to your president, your vice president, the 119th Congress, all through a network you can love and trust right here on the right side of history. We also have a address you can reach out to if you'd like to send a check or money order. That's 1550 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. The loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for your support of Right Side Broadcasting Network, our live desk, and our programming. Heck, some great newsletters as well. You can subscribe there, rsbnetwork.com/newsletter, so you don't miss a beat. You don't miss a minute as we go live on a near daily basis to bring you your government in action. President Trump will participate in ceremony to honor the late, great Charlie Kirk, the Medal of Freedom. Well-deserved. Good and faithful servant. What would have been his 32nd birthday, the United States Senate weeks ago declaring this day, October 14th, as Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day. And from here on out, we will be celebrating that on every single birthday of Charlie's. A fond way to remember a great man. President Trump returning at 3 a.m. Eastern Time from the Middle East after a series of meetings, after the signing of the peace accords, after the signing of those deals, and visiting Israel and Egypt with countless different leaders. In fact, we have photos of the family of nations coming together for this peace accord. President Trump sharing that on Truth Social of just how many people wanted to shake his hand in that process. So it was rather quite a sight to see, with leaders from the Middle East to Europe and around the world coming together to endorse this plan. And number 9, Mr. Producer, shows that sped up video of President Trump shaking countless hands and holding court right there in Egypt. Extraordinary display of unity, something that we have not seen in roughly 3,000 years. As the president described, this region of the world has been at tribal warfare for countless centuries and generations. And for these people to come together now to really strive for that peace, a lasting peace post-World War II, the kind of peace that President Kennedy would speak upon, that President Reagan worked for, and that this president, number 45 and 47, really culminated in achieving as the hostages are home. Think about this: for 2 long years being removed from your family members for nearly 800 days, malnourished, kept in darkness, one gentleman actually having to dig his grave, and the anti-Semitism that boiled over throughout the Western world, and something that actually surprised me in reaction to what's taken place not only on social media, but on the right and the left, of anti-Semitic voices that grew as a result of what took place on October 7th of 2023. A sovereign nation was attacked. Innocent people were murdered. 1,200, in fact, and countless others robbed of time, and in some cases later on their lives, as they were raped and pillaged, murdered by Hamas terrorists. Israel had every right to defend itself, period. There's no debating that. And you could still call for an end to atrocities that happen as a result of war. President Trump did just that and commended Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for being a wartime leader, for dealing with the near impossible, facing annihilation of his people. And this nation, due to our technology, due to President Trump's fortitude, able to end that 12 days war with Iran, destabilize them and their nuclear capabilities, and to end the Houthi rebels who are harassing as well Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. An earlier trip President Trump took back in May. And then Hezbollah to the north, what they did to northern Israel coming in from Lebanon, they've been depleted, decimated, in fact. So you have 2 very different philosophies coming from American thought, whether it be the Obama and the auto pen, focus on appeasement, funneling a blood ransom of billions of dollars over to the Iranian regime, or a peace through strength philosophy of dialoguing with every person, of caring for all people, but also drawing a line in the sand and making sure that the killing stops. President Trump did that. And how fitting for this moment in time to celebrate Charlie Kirk on this Remembrance Day, one day after peace accords signed, something that Charlie worked so hard for and wanted to see in person, a true tribute to his legacy as we continue to celebrate that today. Thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You know how it goes. One person in the house gets that cold, and then over half the household is sick. It's happened time and again. And this year, we're already seeing those cases with flu, with COVID, with the common cold. Get 10% off of Tamiflu, ivermectin, antibiotics, much, much more, NAD+, methylene blue, also emergency medical kits. You might as well stock up now. The problem is when everyone gets sick at once, the pharmacies, the clinics, urgent care, they all get backed up, and you can't find what you actually need. And that's why it pays to be prepared before it hits you at home. If you're the kind of person that likes to prepare, I wasn't always like that. I've turned that into one of my skill sets over the course of my career. But All Family Pharmacy is here to help with doing just that. Stock up that medicine cabinet. Prepare for cold and flu season today. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code now. 10% off Tamiflu, ivermectin, antibiotics, much more. Also parasite cleanses and other off-label uses, so essential to your health. You see it all there at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Also Kalshi.com/RSBN. When will Bitcoin hit that 150 mark? 150K before March, February, January? We've seen how gold and silver skyrocketing this year as a result of new policies and a weakening dollar, and those BRICS nations who want to weaken the United States dollar. Will Andrew Cuomo win New York City mayor and pose one of the greatest political comebacks in modern American history. Really, it can't touch the excitement surrounding last year's presidential election, but nonetheless, the Cuomos targeted, much like President Trump and his family was targeted with the Russia hoax and the lawfare, as Palestinian Senator Chuck Schumer from New York City mentioned. The intelligence community has 6 ways from Sunday if they want to get you, and they did that with a hoax and a dirty dossier. Kalshi.com/RSBN. You could trade on all of these very issues, these questions, including the question of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Will they repeat their World Series championship from last year, just like the Florida Panthers did in the NHL? So Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade on anything. Scan that QR code right now for all of those big questions: music, culture, sports, politics, everything affecting the American experiment, 250 years young. As we also thank our illustrious sponsor here, angelpaste.com, for the miracle cream that is the vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals. I've used it right here on the show. They are Christian owned. They hire veterans. There's also the orange option, a great one for this time of year, with the vitamin C infused, again, non-GMO, no chemical usage to put on your skin. Always healthy, always good for your skin to absorb. It doesn't have any mystery ingredients or 30 plus with the dyes and the different numbers that you don't recognize. This organization, again, hires veterans. They're based in Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America. They are Christian, Bible-believing, good people who love this country. They're patriots. Experience the miracle today with countless different options and a natural facial spray. You could take that on the road with you to celebrate that first date or that 50th wedding anniversary. Angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us here on the right side of history. In case you missed it, President Trump signing those peace accords and that new plan in Egypt just yesterday. We have a playback video of that. Cut number 5, Mr. Producer, to showcase Ambassador Monica Crowley, the chief of protocol, with President Trump and Arab and Muslim leaders agreeing to these peace accords and a plan with Israel and a future for Gaza, a future that will be very bright as we look back on just yesterday.
This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up. Okay, thank you. I can use my pen. Have a pen? Can you use mine? Okay.
Okay. I think we're going to hold it up. And I'll hold up the signature page, yeah.
The leaders of the United States of America, President Donald Trump leading this coalition of the willing, a true coalition of the willing, with the Egyptian president also, Qatar represented, and Turkey as well, with President Erdogan all signing those accords. Behind them, you had President Emmanuel Macron of France, also Alexander Stubb of Finland, the president there, with the UK Prime Minister, King Abdullah of Jordan, and countless other leaders coming together, a family of nations to seek peace, something that we really have not seen over the course of 3,000 years, as we look live to the White House and the grounds where President Trump will posthumously honor the late, great Charlie Kirk on his 32nd birthday, now known this October 14th, the first annual Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day. Thank you to the United States Senate. Thank you to President Trump and this administration. And looking back to September 21st, the memorial service at the State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix. What a sight that was. Charlie's dream is coming to reality. Stadiums full of people praising God, worshiping together, church happening, where the NFL showcases some of its most talented people, to peace in the Middle East, to now a Medal of Freedom of a recipient who truly needs no introduction, someone who has become a martyr to the Christian movement, a martyr of history, a martyr of this great American constitutional experiment. And as we go there for this ceremony, we thank our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, Monetary Gold, Wealth Preservation Securities, all smart to use in this day and age. Grab your complimentary presidential gold guide today. Call today, don't delay. It's 888-617-7994. Ask how to eliminate your IRA fees, those annual ones, permanently and for life. RSBNforthegold.com. Robert Kiyosaki, a friend of the president's, also author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, citing two banks dying, gone, bye-bye, no longer existing in 2025, nearly 500 failing under Obama, and 16 during the Trump 10 years. So what are you to do with BRICS nations that seek to harm the American dollar? Diversify. Best way to do that, gold and silver. Gold skyrocketing in value over the course of roughly 9 months into the the Trump administration. So Monetary Gold is your go-to. Wealth, security, preservation, all there for you today. Learn how with the complimentary Presidential Gold Guide, RSBNforthegold.com. Covepeer.com/RSBN, the reverse osmosis system that is as large, if not smaller, than your coffee dispenser that sits on your kitchen counter. So their Clearwave technology, changing the game of reverse osmosis systems, and something much needed to protect your family. Remember Flint, Michigan, the lead in the pipes, and these pipes that are the infrastructure. It's so sad when I go back to Chicago and I see the crumbling infrastructure thanks to Democrat leadership. Well, it's not only what you see on the bridges or the tunnels, but what's underneath in the sewage system to those pipes they're dispensing water. That lead can lead to cancers, to stomach failure, to liver failure, to all of the above. So how are you to protect yourself? Well, Utah, Florida putting out legislation to get the fluoride, the lead, the poisons out of the water, agricultural runoff, pesticides, something that Secretary of Health and Human Services Bobby Kennedy has spent his whole career working towards to make America healthy again, especially now in this new government role. But get $200 off of covepeer.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code there now. Again, Clearwave technology leading the movement of reverse osmosis systems, and this is the best one to have. Covepeer.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code now, get $200 off. Protect what matters most. JAMA Pediatrics, they did a study. Their children, students who drink from the tap regularly, you know, the kids, they love to drink from the hose. My nieces absolutely love it, especially when the weather is nice. And that can actually lead to losing 2 or more points in your IQ as a result. So Make sure you stay on top of this, especially with that gut health. It's covepeer.com/RSBN. Perplexity has a new AI-powered browser that is called Comet. You can unlock 1 month free of Rumble Premium in addition to browsing at the speed of thought through pplx.ai/RSBN. So here's how it can help you. I'm sure many of you spend countless minutes, hours, sometimes days on one topic, whether it's searching to researching to booking important meetings and those reservations that will be at the big conference that you have in Austin, Texas, or around this great country of ours. So why not have a personal assistant that's literally in the web browser to do the work for you? And instead of 30 minutes of extra work, it turns into 3 or less, and you save time and energy and mental clarity as a result of Perplexity's Comet. So let me tell you about this. Perhaps you're on the move. You're going between New York and Miami, everywhere in between on the East Coast. Your business partner's out west. Stuck in Seattle, has a meeting down in Los Angeles, but you want to meet up in Austin, Texas to prep for that big AI conference. And you want the best Tex-Mex out there. Instead of looking up and researching all of it and then sending a separate email to your business partner and then making sure the booking reservation all works itself out, why not have Comet do it? They could do it in 4 easy steps via Perplexity. It's pplx.ai/RSBN. Comet leading the way as the new AI-powered browser from Perplexity. I've dabbled with this. It's quite fantastic, and I highly recommend it to those at home. Comet. Again, brought to you by Perplexity, pplx.ai/RSBN. President Trump preparing for a Rose Garden ceremony on the new and improved Rose Garden that many of the special Rose Garden dinners being hosted since its construction in the late summer, and now hosting countless people to honor the life and the legacy of one of the most extraordinary men I've ever known, a personal friend and a former boss, and someone who had a vision to defend free enterprise, freedom of speech, the very foundations of this constitutional republic. And his dreams now really becoming reality in 13 years of work that at first people laughed at him, this rather tall 18-year-old that would wear sneakers with khakis. It was funny at times, his wardrobe, but then he became quite dapper and someone who always had such a control of the language and a mind that moved faster than most. There was one time at the Young Women's Leadership Summit where I think he had pulled an all-nighter preparing for the next conference. And I was very happy to go grab him yet another cup of coffee at noon. And he said, "Bobby, this is my 12th cup of coffee." And I said, "You got to stop doing this. It's not going to go well if you just keep running on caffeine." But that was his drive. He wanted to help save this country, and he teamed up with President Trump. And it's a team that has led to the saving of millions of lives and peace in the Middle East just yesterday. And it's so fitting that on his, what would have been his 32nd birthday, we celebrate the man who really became America's pastor and inspired millennials and countless in the Gen Z generation to serve their communities. God, family, and country. That's what Charlie was all about. And we see there the Vice President, Secretary of State, countless other dignitaries. And as J.D. Vance mentioned, as the 50th Vice President of the United States, that he is likely sitting in that role thanks to the influence of Charles James Kirk. It's an extraordinary story that every individual can make a difference. Charlie deeply believed that. And that will be celebrated moments from now. And we're honored here at Right Side Broadcasting Network to celebrate once again the life and legacy of one of American history's truly most extraordinary individuals. As we see there, I believe Mr. Don Jr. in the house for this, Tulsi Gabbard, as well as I think that's Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene up front. I might be wrong about that. But countless dignitaries from Congress, from the administration, from the Trump family as well, as we anticipate the President of the United States moments from now. And in case you missed it, so much to cover, from the trip to Israel and Egypt, ultimately culminating in this peace plan with countless nations in the civilized world coming together for, yes, this Gaza peace plan for the future of the Middle East. But cut number 4, Mr. Producer, the celebration that the hostages are home, that people reunited after 2 years of being apart, from husbands to wives to brothers and sisters and children, parents being separated from family members. And those high holy days, even sweeter now that these innocent people can now go back to normal life after a painful experience. We could play that, Mr. Producer, as we wait for the ceremonies to get underway.
We gather on a day of profound joy, of soaring hope, of renewed faith, and above all, a day to give our deepest thanks to the Almighty God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It should now be clear to everyone throughout the region that decades of fomenting terrorism and extremism, jihadism and anti-Semitism have not worked. They've been a disaster. They've just killed. They've killed. From Gaza to Iran, those bitter hatreds have delivered nothing but misery, suffering, failure, and death. Through glory and heartache, we have built industries together, we have made discoveries together, we have confronted evil together, and we have waged war together, and perhaps, most beautifully of all, we have made peace together. And this week, against all odds, we have done the impossible and brought our hostages home. The God who once dwelled among his people in this city still calls us, in the words of Scripture, the turn from evil and do good. Together we've shown that peace is not just a hope that we can dream about, it's a reality. It's an incredible triumph for Israel and the world to have all of these nations working together as partners in peace. This is the day that people across the region and around the world have been working, striving, hoping, and praying for. With the historic agreement we've just signed, those prayers of millions have finally been answered.
Now, every year, this time of year, this season of cold and flu and COVID, it's the same narrative, right? Where you have someone gets sick in the house and then over half the house is sick with a cold, a fever, whatever it might be. Get 10% off right now. Tamiflu, ivermectin, antibiotics, and more using code RSBN10. Scan the QR code there, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Prepare for cold and flu season. I can't even begin to explain how I used to be someone who did not prepare for things. That's changed thanks to my career and experiences, and I'm grateful for that. So I have that medicine cabinet stocked up, and you should too, right at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Here's the problem. You have pharmacies and clinics and urgent cares that get backed up this time of year as a result of everyone being sick in the household. So if you're the kind of person that likes to push things, to another day, it's why do it now if I could do it later. Get rid of that mentality. Think in advance because your family needs you and it's ready to be there when you need it. These life-saving medications, also NAD+, methylene blue, amongst others, emergency medical kits right at your fingertips. The Parasite Cleanse, also good with hydrochloroquine, ivermectin, off-label uses, countless 200-plus essential medications for you right there at RSBN and allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. So every order is reviewed by a licensed doctor, no insurance, no hassle, no red tape, no bureaucracy, just a pharmaceutical note. And their doctors are there for you to discuss plans if necessary. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. The Yorkville Acquisition Group helping to close a deal between the Trump Media Organization, the Trump Media Group, and the first CRO in American history, a $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com. Get in on today's action. This changes the ball game as a CRO that will make a difference for you and yours in diversifying where you like to put well-earned assets, wealth security preservation, all through the crypto world, something to diversify. We know the Trump Media Group responsible for the application Truth Social that saved free speech on the internet. And in a bull market, there's no better time than to attack with some investments into Crypto.com. So join today, get involved in a historic movement with, again, the Yorkville Acquisition Group teaming up with Trump Media Group and Crypto.com to make the most exciting CRO on the market. Visit Crypto.com today and join everything that is really earth-shattering and breaking as we look towards the future here in this brave new world. So why not diversify with things like Crypto.com? Again, visit them today for this exciting $6.4 billion deal with the Trump Media Group, as it's 4:30 on the East Coast and 1:30 on the West Coast. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Robert McNeely with Right Side Broadcasting Network. President Trump, on the heels of a rather successful peace plan and visiting the Middle East over the course of the last 48 hours, and he got back at 3 a.m. to make sure he'd be here today for Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day on his 32nd birthday in order to posthumously award the late, great conservative activist, the podcaster, the community organizer who became America's pastor. Now, I love this story that Glenn Beck shared as he gifted Charlie on the Charlie Kirk Show with the golden microphone of Rush Limbaugh, a gift that was given by Rush's widow to Glenn Beck and then passed from Glenn Beck on to Charlie Kirk. That to me gave me goosebumps. And Glenn said that he wished he had that moment to tell Charlie, I think you were thinking too small, because Charlie had that conversation with Glenn. I want to do what you do. I want to influence. I want to be on the radio. I want to have these shows. And he said, no, you've really spread the gospel message in a way that we haven't seen since the likes of Archbishop Fulton Sheen or America's Reverend Billy Graham. Charlie Kirk is in the history books with names synonymous to theirs. And in fear of being repetitive and sharing in what many of my colleagues in the media have spoken of, if any of us in this movement, in this time, to be involved with broadcast journalism, to commentating, to American politics as we see it over the course of the last decade or so, we owe it to Charlie Kirk. And I am one of those grateful individuals. If there's no Charlie Kirk, there's no Robert McNeely. And I know many others can say the same. So today is quite an honor to be here at this live desk to celebrate with you as we soon await President Trump to participate in the Charlie Kirk Medal of Freedom ceremony. As we await that, let's take a quick commercial break for sponsorships here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Don't change that dial. It's Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. It's Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely. President Trump will soon be exiting the Oval Office, and we'll take you there live to the new and improved Rose Garden with countless dignitaries, members of Congress, the cabinet, to members of the Kirk family. Charlie's name was, or stood for, warrior of the church. Charlie was translate to warrior. Charles does have that translation in the Germanic and Latin roots. And then Kirk standing for church, warrior of the church. I just think it's remarkable. I did not piece the two together until after his untimely death. And his name forever etched in the history books as a soon-to-be recipient of the Medal of Freedom. We'll take you right there to the Rose Garden. In the meantime, in case you missed it, cut number 13, Mr. Producer, President Trump had the honor of signing the Knesset book, that the guest book that many world leaders have signed over the years when they have the opportunity to address the Israeli parliament, as he did before going to Egypt for the Gaza peace deal. And we have video playback of that signing from yesterday.
Then here. This one, Avi. And please here. Let's try again. Alone. Now here, please, to Avi, everyone. And White House photographer, please. Daniel. אוקיי, עכשיו על הספר? רגע, ראש מותק. היום. להסתכל על הספר? להסתכל על הספר? נועם, טיפה את הדשון שלי? כן? אתה בסדר? היד. Amen to that. We'll be here and then everyone should okay? I'm perfect. Going to the left leg? I'm good. Going to the right. Let's go. Amen to that, Mr. President.
A historic day for peace in the Middle East, as many in our audience. This also happens to be Medicare enrollment time. It's annual, and it's important to focus and help where we can. If you're 64 or older, you know what that means. The nonstop robocalls, the junk mail, the scams that are out there. So knock out your Medicare to-do list from people trying to sell you something that's not Medicare. So Chapter solves all of that. Call today. Don't delay. It's 833-438-3359. The truth is Medicare is confusing on purpose. And who benefits? Big insurance companies and scam artists out there that want to take advantage of you, the American people. So some plans, they even drop completely as a result of the phone call harassment. This leaves millions of Americans stuck on plans that cost too much or cover too little. So even if you like your current plan, you've got to look at the 2026 options. That's where Chapter comes in. Chapter wants to help you, the great patriots at home. And they don't work for big government. They don't work for the insurance companies. They work for your benefit to find the best options. They're independent. They're the only advisors who compare every single Medicare plan nationwide to find the one that fits your needs and your preferences. So they make things quick and easy. It's under 20 minutes, and you're off on your merry way. If your plan's still the best for you in 2026, great, you're done. No worries at all. But if not, they'll help you find that new one. On average, people who work with Chapter save $1,100 per year. So why not try out and a wonderful organization focused on protecting those 64 and older. 833-438-3359. Compare every Medicare plan with Chapter. Knock out your Medicare to-do list at 833-438-3359 as we await President Trump to be live there in the Rose Garden on a sun-crisp, gorgeous day in our nation's capital, and reflecting nicely upon the new and improved Rose Garden, where many parties and dinners are held, and President Trump enjoys to get people together to celebrate the greatness of this nation, and perhaps no better day than today, Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, as we await the young activist, all he did for this country, really becoming America's pastor in turn, to encourage God, family, and country, telling young people, get married, have more kids that you can afford, because there's nothing like it. And one of the joys in my life is to witness my friends and family members doing just that, because that is what truly is making America great again, and returning to church, and to be in Bible-based communities, and to find where you can serve. Charlie always said that he's much less concerned about what he wants from God than what God wanted from him, ultimately. Always asking where he could serve more. Isaiah 6:8, here I am, Lord, send me. That's what he was focused on, especially in recent years on the college campuses, wearing those shirts, either freedom or here I am, simple messages that inspired countless millions of Americans. And with chapter numbers skyrocketing since an assassin's bullet took him from us, his legacy will not only be forgotten, but it will be remembered and honored on his birthday and for the days, weeks, years to come. Let's toss it there now, live to the Rose Garden for the President of the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Kirk.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please, this is such an honor. This is the, please be seated. This is the first time we've been at the new and improved Rose Garden, and people are loving it. They're loving it like they've not loved a lot of things. We have the Presidential Walk of Fame, which you just saw, and it just opened, and we wanted to get it open for this occasion. We were hoping we were able to get outside, and the weather allowed us to. It was supposed to be a terrible rainy day. I was telling Eric, and God was watching, and he didn't want that for Charlie. He just didn't want that. So it's really beautiful. It couldn't be more beautiful. Today we're here to honor and remember a fearless warrior for liberty, beloved leader who galvanized the next generation like nobody I've ever seen before, and an American patriot of the deepest conviction, the finest quality and the highest caliber, the late, great Charlie Kirk. Five weeks ago, our nation was robbed of this extraordinary champion. He was a champion in every way. I got to know him so well. He didn't like losing, and he was able to fight people that were enemies, and he didn't necessarily love those enemies so much. You know, I heard he loved his enemies, and I said, wait a minute, is that the same Charlie that I know? I'm not sure, but I didn't want to get into it. But it was a horrible, heinous, demonic act of murder. He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved this country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk, our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you. As you know, only hours ago, I returned from a very historic trip to secure peace in the Middle East. People said that couldn't be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I raced back halfway around the globe. I was going to call Erica and say, Erica, could you maybe move it to Friday? And I didn't have the courage to call. But you know why I didn't call? Because I heard today was Charlie's birthday. And I said, that was a definite. And I said, we're going to have to forget about some of those very big, very rich countries that expected me to be there. And I can tell you, based on the length of that flight, I wouldn't want to go back tomorrow. But I would not have missed this moment for anything in the world. Nothing. And it's a very important time for our country, and our country is doing so well. It's never done better. We are a country with almost now $18 trillion of investment coming in. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. Previous administration had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have more than 18, it'll be much more than 20 by the time the year, more than $20 trillion. There's never been a country in the world that had anything like that. What's happened to our country is incredible in a short period of time. Charlie was a big person for, sir, can we close up those borders, please, a little bit? They're really leaking badly. I said, Charlie, I haven't gotten there yet. But, it came out last 4 months. Literally nobody was allowed into our country. And the only people that were allowed in were people that came in legally. The borders are absolutely stone cold closed. And they reported 0, 0, 0, and 0. So that's pretty good. But he was a big believer. He wanted people in the country more than I did, frankly. He wanted them to come in legally. And he got his wish. October 14th is Charlie's birthday, and he should have been turning 32 years old. I tell you, when I first met him, he was like 22. And I said, boy, he's awfully young. But I thought he was older than that. He looked a little bit older than his age. That's okay. That's not good when you're old. But when you're young, it's great. He had the best of all things, but he was special. But instead, Charlie is attaining a far more important milestone. We're entering his name forever into the eternal roster of true American heroes. He's a true American hero, an amazing person, way, way beyond his years. And I'm honored to be joined by a woman who has endured unspeakable hardship with unbelievable strength, and that's Charlie's widow, Erica. And I just want to thank you, Erica. He loved you so much. I was with him. Oh, please. Thank you, darling. Thank you. I was with him before I met Erica, and he told me he was going to get married. He said, you won't believe how beautiful she is. I said, well, then now that I meet her, he's right. But then he also said, and you know what? She's like the smartest person I know. See, they do go together on occasion. Not often. Not often. But on occasion they go together. But he was in love with you. He was deeply in love with you. It's great. Erica, your love and courage have been an inspiration to all of us, and we will always be here for you, and we're always going to be here for your gorgeous, beautiful children. And we'll never forget what your family has sacrificed for our country. Man loved our country. When things were going badly for our country, he was so, as you know, angry. He would get angry because he said it doesn't have to be that way. We're also pleased to be joined by an incredible group of Charlie's friends, very powerful friends, actually. And some not so powerful, and they're actually better people, okay? I know them all. They're the less powerful ones. I have to tell you that, all of you power guys down here. The best ones in the group are the ones that are less successful, but that happens too. No, they're all great, and they're here. And let's start with Erica's father. Where is Erica's father? Where are you? Where are you, Dad? Oh, look at him. Wow. I want to get a hat like that, too. I like that. How are you? Nice to see you again. Thanks as well to Vice President J.D. Vance, who's been fantastic. J.D., thank you very much. Great. Doing a great job. Did a great job on Sunday with George Slopadopoulos. I thought put him away pretty good. Second lady, who's a phenomenal woman, Usha Vance. Thank you very much, Usha. Thank you very much. Great woman. President of Argentina. He wanted to be here. That's Argentina's a serious flight, right? And he's become a superstar, and he's doing amazing things. He's a MAGA person, but it's make Argentina great again. That's what he does, right? And I want you to stand, please, Javier Milei. Doing a great job. Thank you very much. Many members of my cabinet are here. Just about all of them are here. I won't go into every single one of them, but I'll announce a few of the people that have really turned this country around and helped me. Incredible people. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Where is Mike? Mike, what a job you're doing, Mike. What a job you're doing. And I watched you this morning, and you're in there trying to say, look, just let the country open. Everything will be fine. We're dealing with some radical left lunatics. And I just wish Charlie was here to fight us. I think the fight would have been over already. He would have had a march on the Capitol by people whose average age is about 21, because there's nobody that had that relationship with young people. Right, Mike? So thank you, Mike, for being here. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Steve, thank you very much. A brave guy and a friend. House Majority Whip, another terrific man, Tom Emmer. Thank you, Tom. Senate Majority Whip, John Barrasso. John, thank you very much. You have all these senators. I'm going to get in trouble. I'm not going to read all their names. I'll be reading all day. We'll be talking about Charlie in about 45 minutes from now. We can't do that. So all of the senators, there's so many of you, thank you very much. I do want to thank Senator Thune for doing a terrific job. He's really been leading properly. Do you agree, Mike? The team, the two of these guys have been fantastic. So to Senator Thune, I want to thank you very much. Incredible job. I watched him this morning, and he was out there pounding them this morning on television, too. And John Barrasso, thank you for the work you've done, and congratulations on your success. But I want to thank you all and all of the Congress people that are here. And I see we have our Attorney General here, and you are doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much, Pam. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have everybody. Wow, that's incredible. Okay, I'm not going to do any more. I'm going to be here too long. But I just want to thank you. Have given him such support, but he always gave you such support. That's why you're here. And very unusual. Charles James Kirk was a visionary and one of the greatest figures of his generation. He was truly an amazing figure and growing leaps and bounds. He knew that the fight to preserve our heritage is waged not only on the battlefield and in the halls of power, of which we have tremendous power here, including the head of a place called War. We call it now War. We had Defense. We had our Secretary of Defense. Now we have a Secretary of War. And somehow I think it's more emblematic, and hopefully we'll never have to use war. But the fact that we're ready is very good. Peace through strength is very important. But also in the hearts of our nation's youth, that's where Charlie rode strongest. At age 18, that insight inspired Charlie to found the organization that ultimately touched the lives of millions and millions of people, and so many young people that nobody's ever seen anything like it, frankly. Turning Point USA. It's amazing, and it's actually bigger now. It's become bigger in the last few weeks than Charlie ever thought. I think his end vision in many years from now would have been just a fraction of what it turned out to be in a couple of weeks, right? It's amazing. With hard work and joyful spirit and endless enthusiasm and determination, And he did have great enthusiasm. You know, I always say you need enthusiasm to be successful. He had great enthusiasm. Charlie grew Turning Point into the largest conservative youth organization in the entire country. He forged a personal bond with countless young conservatives. He fought for free speech, religious liberty, strong borders, and a very strong and proud America. In everything he did, he put America first. He really put America first. And ultimately, Charlie became more than a leader of an important organization. He became the leader of historic movements all over the country. There were movements, individual movements, one movement, but it was historic. Everything he did was historic, and a true evangelist for the cause of freedom and the word of Almighty God. God was very important to Charlie. He would say, you know, if you don't have religion, you're not going to have a strong country. It's true. He was so wise beyond his years. You know, I talk to him sometimes and say, this guy is like a young guy. He was really a wise man. From the time Charlie worked on my presidential campaign in 2016, and he was there right from the beginning. He liked me. I don't know. I have no idea why. What the hell was he thinking? He said, you're going to win, sir. I said, you know, I'm running against 17 senators and a lot of tough people and governors. We have all these people. And he said, no, you're going to win, sir. He said, not going to be close. And he made it happen. He helped make it happen. I'll tell you that. Without him, who knows what would be. Maybe you'd have Kamala standing here today. That would not be good. I will tell you, Javier, you don't know who Kamala is. Promise. It would not be good. You agree with that, Howard? He also mobilized countless citizens to go vote. It's called Go Vote. Very simple. And with his help in 2024, we won more young people than any Republican by far in the history of our country. And we won the popular vote. We won the swing states, all 7 of them. Remember, they said, oh, well, if Trump could win 4, that would be nice. I win 7 by a lot, by a landslide. But the popular vote was massive. And we won the Electoral College. Remember, they said, well, it's going to be very hard. I'd say 270. Well, we got 312 to 226. And then we won something called districts and councils and different things. But in one case, we won 2,750 to 525. That's the one where you see the map is almost entirely red, except they have a little blue line on one side and a little blue line, meaning New York and a little bit Los Angeles. I have a feeling that if the vote were 100%, we would have won that too. You want to know the truth. But he knew, and he knew very well, and he also understood honesty, and he was always concerned with honesty. He said the only way we can lose is if the cheating gets so bad, and that's where we came up with a little phrase, too big to rig. We said, go out and vote. Just go out and vote. And we had that. Remember, we used to say that all the time because people would say, oh, they're going to win. We don't have to vote. Let's go to a movie. We'll come home and watch later. And he wasn't about that. So we come up to, together, we came up with that phrase, we got to make it too big. I never made a speech where I didn't say at the end, now look, the polls are showing good. Don't believe the polls. He said, we're going to make it, Susie, right? Too big to rig. So if you think we're going to win by a lot, doesn't matter. Pretend we're losing. You got to go out and vote. They voted. And at 9:02, the whole thing was over, right? 9:02. Remember they said, oh, this could go a few days. Well, it went a few minutes. 9:02. And he knew that. And I felt it, but he knew it. He knew it. I think he knew it more than anybody. But Charlie never missed an opportunity to remind us of the Judeo-Christian principles of our nation's founding or to share his deep Christian faith. In his final moments, Charlie testified to the greatness of America and to the glory of our Savior, with whom he now rests in heaven. And he is going to make heaven. I said, I'm not sure I can make it, but he's going to make it. He's there. He's looking down on us right now. It's so incredible. Look at this, how this turned out. This was supposed to be so dark and cloudy. Not dark and cloudy, is it? Look at that, how beautiful that is. There's no artist that can capture it as beautiful as it is today. Wow. It's amazing. As I said, on the day that he was assassinated, Charlie Kirk was a martyr for truth and for freedom. And from Socrates to think, and to St. Peter, from Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King, those who change history the most, and he really did, have always risked their lives for causes they were put on earth to defend. He was put on earth to do exactly what he was doing. He didn't want to waste time. He would have been a top student at any college in the country. I know the college as well. He's smarter than the guys there. He was so smart. But he almost, I guess, didn't have the time. He knew what he wanted to do. It wasn't like, gee, I want to sit in the classroom for 4 years listening to people teach me liberal principles, because they were never going to teach him that anyway. But he didn't have the time. He really didn't have the time. But every time the enemies of goodness and virtue tried to silence the voice of righteous and noble leaders like Charlie, they failed. They seem to fail. Ultimately, they look like they're doing well, and then they end up failing, because the truth has been unrelenting over the years, over history. And people like Charlie, it's just they've got a power that others don't have, and very few people will ever have. So today, like those martyrs before him, Charlie's voice, his message, and his legacy are stronger and greater than ever before. They are greater than ever before. Look, this is a horrible event, but it brought out the greatness of Charlie. Nothing could have ever supplanted this. It's incredible, the way people are talking about him. And with great love. I mean, I read so many stories about some of the enemies, but I watch the enemies, and it's hard for them to speak badly about him because they just don't. And then you do have people in the days since Charlie's killing, we've seen exactly why our country so dearly needed his example. We've watched legions of far-left radicals resort to desperate acts of violence and terror because they know that their ideas and arguments are persuading no one. They know that they're failing. They have the devil's ideology, and they're failing, and they know it. They feel it, and they become violent. They seem to become very violent on the left. They've rammed vehicles into federal law enforcement, fired sniper rifles at ICE agents, and me, you know. But I made a turn at a good time. I turned to the right. Charlie couldn't believe it, actually. He said, how the hell did you make that turn? I said, I don't know. But fired rifles and threatened the lives of our Supreme Court justices, our great justices. They have to be protected. We just issued a lot of money, $60 million, to protect the Supreme Court justices. Very important. We can't let anything happen. In places of worship, we're protecting our people. We've seen that a candidate for Attorney General in Virginia boasted that he would want to see the Republican legislature, a legislator in Virginia, shot in the head and to see his children murdered. He actually said this. And now he continues to run for office, and most people continue to back him, but he said he wants his man shot. He said shot in the head and to see his children murdered. And they keep running. Pretty amazing, right? That's a bad one. Let's see how that turns out, but that's a really bad one. Nobody's heard that one before. Especially in the wake of Charlie's assassination, our country must have absolutely no tolerance for this radical left violence, extremism, and terror. We're done with the angry mobs, and we're not going to let our cities be unsafe. We're going to make sure our cities are safe. When you have Chicago, where they had 4,000 people murdered over a very short period of time, 4,000 people, and then we have a governor stand up and say, oh, things are going swimmingly. No, they're not. We're going to make Chicago safe, just like we're going to make, look what we did in D.C. It's so nice that we started here, because this was one of the most violent places in the United States. It'd be dangerous to be right out here. But you couldn't go to a restaurant. The restaurants were all dying. The whole place was dying. You'd have these gorgeous, look at the Washington Monument over there. You'd have these gorgeous buildings and monuments and structures. And people were afraid to leave their apartment. They were afraid to go to work. They'd get into an Uber and they'd feel safe, and then the Uber would be attacked. They thought they made it to safety, and then the Uber was attacked on the trip in. But we've done a great job, and now it's considered a totally safe city. We haven't had problems. Took us 12 days to make it great. We took out, Pam, 1,700 hard criminals, career criminals in many cases, but these are hardened criminals. Many of them came in through the Biden open borders. We brought them back to the countries. And a couple were so violent that we put them in jail. We don't want to take a chance that they could get back in, because no matter how good we do, somebody can sneak in. They were so violent and so bad. One arrested 28 times. Every time he left prison, he'd get into a violent incident. 28 times. And we put him away for a long time. But we're done with the angry mobs. We're done with it. This is such an unbelievable place right now. You take a look where you can walk down the middle of the street with your wife or your husband. Your children can walk. They can walk alone. It doesn't matter. They can walk anywhere in Washington, and they're safe now. If this were a year ago, they'd have a serious chance of being badly hurt, even killed. They'd come in from Indiana, they'd come in from Iowa, they'd come from Florida to see their nation's capital, and somebody would have to call the parents, I'm sorry, but your son or your daughter's been killed. Not anymore. You hear those sirens going off? That's good. That's a good sound. That means they either got the bad guy or they're going to stop the bad guy. You didn't hear that sound because nobody wanted to do anything. Listen to the beauty of that sound. Seriously. And that's the real deal sirens. They're not politically correct sirens. You hear them, they're about 3 miles away. That's great. What a beautiful sound. They're stopping crime. That's what they're doing. So we're done with the voices of fools. They're fools. And death threats, and we're going to make our cities safe. And I thought it was Charlie's, one of his biggest dreams was that. He couldn't believe it. Chicago's going to be a great city again. We've already, we sent people in there 6 months ago, and this governor said, well, crime is down. Yeah, that's because we had the FBI in there for 6 months, just preparing it for the bigger surge. And they've done a great job, the cash and the FBI. They've done a great job, and they love doing it, They love being able to do it. They were restricted from doing it. They couldn't do anything. And now they're totally unrestricted. All they have to do is stop crime, and they're doing it. By the way, Memphis, as you know, you heard they went in about a week ago, one of the most dangerous places in the country. It's really in the world. It's not just the country. They have very few cities that would compare to some of these cities. You go to Afghanistan, you say, oh, that's unsafe. Well, the crime numbers are much better than the crime numbers in places that we have. So Memphis, I understand, is doing unbelievably in 1 week. It's like a different place. And this took 12 days, and then after that, we just perfected it. But after 12 days, we had good safety here. After 1 month, it's like, it's really amazing. And by the way, restaurants are booming. Restaurants are opening up. The big problem we have, you can't get into a restaurant in D.C. anymore. So they're opening up. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's called safety. It's called law enforcement and letting them do their job. And that's why I said last month that I have directed the Attorney General and the Department of Homeland Security to confront the very real threat of left-wing terrorism in our country. It's a real threat. Not when you confront it, it's not, because they're not brave people. In fact, they're cowards. When you confront them, they immediately fold. You have to see them fold. You have to see them crying. They fold. But it includes dismantling the networks that fund them and finance them, and we're finding out who those networks are. We already know quite a few of them. When you see these violent incidents and then you see people holding this gorgeous sign with beautiful wood, beautiful cardboard, wood, everything's perfect paint job, and they're all the same. There are thousands of them. You know that they weren't made in the basement out of love. They were made by anarchists, and in some cases wealthy. I'll probably find some of my nice friends that are up there being so nice to me, especially lately. They're being very nice. But it surprises you who they may be, and you almost wonder why would they do it? But they're hurting our country, and we're really taking it back one by one. If we didn't go into Los Angeles early on in the administration, the commissioner, the chief of police, Los Angeles, said if they didn't go in, we would have lost our city. Now, they already lost 25,000 houses to fire because they wouldn't let the water come in from the Pacific Northwest, which they should have done. I said, you better do it. They didn't do it, and we had 25,000 homes where they had no water in their sprinklers, they had no water in the fire hydrants. It would have been a different kind of a thing if they did what they were supposed to do. We had to break in. We broke in and had the water come down. They said for the environment, great, they lost 25,000 houses. It's incredible. But the commissioner said without the federal government and President Trump's intervention, we would have lost the entire city. And we have the Olympics going there soon. I got the Olympics. We have the Olympics. We have the World Cup. And we have, most importantly, we have the 250th anniversary of our country. That's going to be most important. And all of these things are happening. And we're going to have safe cities. We're going to have very, very safe cities. So 1 month after Charlie's death, we still feel the terrible shock and the pain of his loss like just about nobody I can think of. Charlie Kirk was one of a kind. He was unstoppable. And he really was. Boy, when he had an idea in his head, he would call me, "Sir, please, you haven't done it yet." I said, "Charlie, relax. Just relax." He didn't relax. He'd call me the next day again. It got it done. But he was like indomitable and always will be. He's really irreplaceable. Nobody going to replace him. But they're going to do great. But you can't replace that kind of person and that kind of talent, frankly. The word talent is an important word, but that kind of talent. So we hold his memory in our hearts forever. Every single day of this administration, we will continue to carry out the mission for which he lived, and he really did. He lived for this country. He lived for his wife and his family, but he lived for this country too. In Charlie's honor, we will continue like we have been to fight, 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 and to win, win, win. We're going to win so much. So the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a big deal. You have the Congressional Medal of Honor, military, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is civilian. And the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a really big deal. Very few people get it. Very few people, frankly, qualify. It's a decision of the president, but it's a qualification that's a very hard one to get. And I would like to ask, if I might, the military aide to read Charles James Kirk's citation for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Charles James Kirk. Accepting on behalf of Charlie is his wife, Mrs. Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of the most influential American political figures of his generation. At just 18 years old, he founded Turning Point USA and grew it into the largest conservative youth organization in the nation. For over a decade, he tirelessly traveled the country, leading a movement to restore respect for our founding principles, reawaken our national identity, and inspire a renewed spirit of religious devotion. He was one of the great debaters and communicators of his time. Despite receiving repeated threats, he remained undeterred and modeled courage, logic, humor, and grace to the next generation. On September 10th, 2025, at age 31, Charlie Kirk was assassinated while addressing a group of students. The United States honors him as a martyr for truth and freedom.
Thank you, Mr. President, for honoring my husband in such a profound and meaningful way. And thank you for making this event a priority amid the peace process in the Middle East. Thank you. Very grateful. Charlie always admired your commitment to freedom, and that's something that both of you shared. So thank you. Your support of our family and the work that Charlie devoted his life to will be something I cherish forever. So thank you. To our gracious First Lady in her office for making this event possible, thank you as well. It's beautiful. To Vice President and the lovely Usha fans, your friendship has been an unbelievable encouragement. Thank you. And to all our friends and family that are here and watching from all around the world, thank you for loving us. Thank you for praying for us and for believing in what Charlie believed in. And to our Turning Point USA staff and the Charlie Kirk Show staff, we love you more than you could ever know. And to the Turning Point USA chapters that are watching all across America right now, you are the heartbeat of this future and of this movement. Everything that Charlie built, you guys are the legacy holders of that. You are living proof that his mission did not die with him. It lives through you. And Charlie always said the next generation will decide whether freedom endures. And because of you, I know that freedom will endure. It will. And today we're gathered not only to celebrate Charlie's birthday, but to honor a truth that he gave his entire life to defend, and that's freedom. The very existence of the Presidential Medal of Freedom reminds us that the national interest of the United States has always been freedom. Our founders etched it into the preamble of our Constitution, and those words are not relics on parchment. They are a living covenant. The blessings of liberty are not man's invention, they are God's endowment. Charlie lived for those blessings, not as abstract words, but as sacred promises. He used to love to journal about this topic all the time, and with such a heart postured of gratitude. And he believed that liberty was both a right and a responsibility. And he used to say, freedom is the ability to do what is right without fear. And that's how he lived. He was free from fear. He was free from compromise, free from anything that could enslave his soul. His name, Charles, literally means free man. And that's exactly who my husband was. He was a free man. And from the time I met him, sitting across from him, being interviewed on politics and philosophy and theology, anything that Charlie loved, any topic he loved, and I just saw the fire in his soul, and there was this divine restlessness within him that came from knowing God placed him on this earth to protect something very, very sacred for all of us. And he never stopped fighting for people to experience freedom. He didn't. Charlie often said that without God, freedom becomes chaos. And he believed liberty could only survive when anchored to truth. And I remember in one of his speeches, he told the audience that the opposite of liberty isn't law. He said it's captivity. And that the freest people in the world are those whose hearts belong to Christ. But what's so powerful is that Charlie had the ability to communicate so brilliantly across all generations. And he reminded us that in a world that tells us freedom is doing whatever you want to do, the real freedom is the power to live freely and to do what is right. And in one of his journal entries, he wrote that he wanted everyone to know that you can't have liberty without moral responsibility. Freedom divorced from faith eventually just destroys itself. And what's so fascinating about all of this is looking back these past 12 years of Turning Point USA and his mission, there's almost this veil of sacredness. Because what I realize is that while he was building an organization, he was also building a movement, one that called people back to God, back to truth, and a movement that was filled with courage. And ironically, for a man who impacted millions, Charlie never desired to be the center of attention. He just wasn't. My husband was not a man of extravagance. He loved simple but deeply meaningful things. Truly. He loved his late night walks. He loved buying more books than he could ever read because he felt there was no such thing as a book budget. And he loved being able to read to our kids the same bedtime story on repeat because he knew it was their favorite. But to him, that was special. And he loved to sit in the sun on a Saturday morning with his cup of decaf coffee, and his phone was off because he was honoring the Sabbath. And for him, it was that moment to catch his breath and just be in peace because he was unreachable at the moment. And he preferred quiet birthdays. But that never stopped me from telling him. I told him every single year, I said, baby, I love your birthday. I said, because it's the day that God knew the world couldn't go another day without you. And so the rhythm of our usual birthday celebration for him was mint ice cream, mint chocolate chip ice cream. He only had it twice a year, on his birthday and 4th of July. It's just, and then after that, it was back to work as usual. But last year, his one birthday wish was to see the Oregon Ducks play the Ohio State. And they won. Oregon won that night. And it was by far one of the most memorable nights of his birthday experience of his life until today. And so, honestly, President Trump, I have spent 7.5 years trying to find the perfect birthday gift for Charlie. And it's so difficult. And those of you that have spouses or loved ones, you know how difficult it is sometimes to buy a gift for someone that you love, because he wasn't a materialistic man, so that also did not help. But now I can say with confidence, Mr. President, that you have given him the best birthday gift he could ever have. It's such an honor and the recognition of a life lived for defending freedom. And that's what Charlie fought for until his last breath. And it was written across his chest in those final moments on one of his simple t-shirts that always carried a message, and this one bearing a single word, freedom. That was the banner over his life, and that shirt was a declaration. The same declaration he made in every speech, every campus visit, every time he shared the gospel at a church, every sleepless night that he would spend praying for the youth of this nation and planning for the future of our country, and just impressing upon them that when we defend liberty, we defend the soul of our nation. My husband never told anyone what to say. He never did. He never told anyone what to say. He would just encourage them to think. He would encourage them to think outside of the traditional political labels. He would want them to think in a way that was anchored in wisdom and truth. But he would never tell anyone what to say. Charlie wasn't content to simply admire freedom. He wanted to multiply it. He wanted to multiply freedom. He wanted young people to taste it and to understand it and defend it. He wanted them to see that liberty isn't self-indulgence, it's self-governance under God. He wanted them to see that. And every day I'd see him getting ready for work. He'd put on his cross necklace, he'd put his ring on his finger. And the boldness in his demeanor was always fearlessness. He wasn't afraid. He was never afraid. In his daily actions, whether in office or on campus or at a church, it was always without fear. That was his creed. That is how he lived out every single day. He didn't fear being slandered. He did not. He didn't fear losing friends, I can tell you that. He didn't. He didn't care. He stood for truth and stood for freedom, and he did not, everything else was just noise to him. And it's because his confidence in Christ was absolute. That's why. There was no limit to what he would have sacrificed to defend freedom for all. And if the moment had come, he probably would have run for president, but not out of ambition. He would only have done it if that was something that he believed that his country needed from a servant's heart standpoint. And Charlie lived only 31 short years. No, he's 32, but on this side of heaven, but he lived. He lived every single second he lived. He filled every single day with purpose, and he fought for truth when it was unpopular. And he stood for God when it was costly, but that's what we're called to do. Surprisingly enough, he did pray for his enemies, which is very hard, but he did. He did. He did. No one else, I mean, I saw him do it. No, he never did it in front of anyone else, but I can attest to that. But he also loved people when it was inconvenient. And he ran his race with endurance, and he kept the faith. And now he wears the crown of a righteous martyr. And for me and for our children, the truth really steadies our grief, because heaven gained what earth could no longer contain. A free man made fully free. And to all watching, this is not a ceremony. This is a commissioning. And my message is simple. I want you to be the embodiment of this medal. I do. I want you to free yourself from fear. I want you to stand courageously in the truth. Listen for the still, small voice of God. And remember that while freedom is inherited in this country, each of us must be intentional stewards every single day. God began a mighty work through my husband, and I intend to see it through. And the torch is in our hands now. It's in mine, it's in yours, it's in all of yours. It's in all the students with Turning Point USA. And before I close, I'll share with you that I asked our daughter what she would like to say to Daddy for his birthday. Excuse me. She said, "Happy birthday, Daddy. I want to give you a stuffed animal. I want you to eat a cupcake with ice cream, and I want you to go have a birthday surprise. I love you," is what she said. And while our son is precious, he can't yet speak, in classic Kirk family fashion, his actions spoke louder than his words, and his gift to you, Charlie, and myself for that matter, was deciding to become the man of the house and be fully potty trained at 16 months. But Charlie, baby, I know that you're celebrating in heaven today, but gosh, I miss you. We miss you. And we love you, and we promise we'll make you proud. And Charlie's life was proof that freedom is not a theory, it's a testimony. He showed us that liberty begins not in the halls of power, but in the man of a heart surrendered to God. And so today, as we honor Charlie with this incredible Presidential Medal of Freedom on his birthday, I stand here with tears and just a humbled heart and spirit, because his story reminds us all that to live free is the greatest gift, but to die free is the greatest victory. Happy birthday, my Charlie. Happy Freedom Day. God bless you.
An extraordinary ceremony, gracious, eloquent. The words of Erica Kirk, always inspiring. In turn, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, who for him, perhaps in not name, but rather in spirit, saw Charlie as one of his own, a brother in this movement, but also as someone who was like a son to him. To think about these last 13 years and the intersection of life and people at a crossroads together in a movement to save the country. To Erica's words that this is truly not a man-made invention, but rather God's endowment, the United States of America, a constitutional republic now 250 years young that has stood the test of time because of courageous patriots, as President Trump mentioned, like the likes of Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King, to a JFK, and to now Charles James Kirk, a recipient of the Medal of Freedom. And it's so true, as she mentioned his journaling, liberty without moral responsibility. It intersects. One comes after the other accompanies one another, as if two people in marriage become one flesh. They not only accompany each other in such a way that's correct and nice, but rather they are essential to one another in order to live. Because without the moral responsibility, freedom gets lost into chaos, into a nothingness. A beautiful day to celebrate an extraordinary man, Charles James Kirk. Let's make heaven crowded as we thank our sponsors this evening here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. MyPillow.com/RSBN. The 6-piece towel sets back in stock, regularly going for $70, now $40, $39.98, a very limited quantity. MyPillow.com/RSBN. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. Support Mr. Mike Lindell, who is a veteran of those Turning Point USA conferences, speaking and inspiring countless young people to get involved in their communities, to lead in the business world, and to ultimately serve Christ after our Lord's own heart. Mike Lindell doing that better than most in a humble and extraordinary way. MyPillow.com/RSBN. If you like what you see with your go-to live desk, please feel free to donate, as we are the counter to the legacy media, sometimes a media that is anti-American, one that presents fact with their own opinion and really has a way of blurring the lines. We don't do that here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, as you just saw. We bring you right to the speeches, to the press conferences, to the hearings, so you know exactly what your government is doing, the one you put into place back on November 5th, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, the 50th Vice President, and the 119th Congress. So please feel free to support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, rsbnetwork.com/donate. You can text RSBN to 801-801. In addition to that, an address for check or money order. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama. As we bid you adieu on this evening, I'd like to share perhaps my favorite photo that I had with Charlie way back in the day. That's 2018 at the Young Women's Leadership Summit, and where he'd allow me to host and MC those events in Dallas, Texas. It was a personal favorite of mine, as young women would attend the concert. Also, those adult VIPs, as this organization continued to grow year after year after year, fighting for free enterprise, freedom of speech, and ultimately God, family, and country, something that Charlie Kirk embodied for this generation to be inspired by, for countless millennials and for those in the Gen Z generations and older than us as well. It was the pleasure of a lifetime, not only working for him, but being his friend. And I look forward to the day we are reunited. So Godspeed, buddy. Happy birthday. And your legacy, this ripple effect, will go on forever and ever. So let's make heaven crowded, and let's live for Charlie. You can get all America First updates and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. And for all my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Robert McNeely. It's always a joy to be with you at the live desk. God bless you. Good night. Happy birthday to Charlie James Kirk, recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.